Peace, everyone in YouTube land and Facebook. Peace, everyone. Greetings. Tov Yom Rishon. I know I'm having difficulties with my speech lately. I don't know time. But we're going to talk about some of those things, and maybe there's a reason why, right? I'm going to allow people to come in a little bit, and so while they do that, I'm going to officially open the space and give thanks to the Most High Yah. We are starting another cycle of 7. This is Yom Rishon, day 1. So hopefully we'll open up this strong, with purpose and aimed at productivity, so that when we come to Yom Shishi or day 6, we are fully deserving and prepared for rest. Greetings to all of you on Clubhouse. Give thanks for the space. I can't believe I did that. Give thanks for the space. Give thanks to Chief Yuya for allowing the space, and also, and more than allowing the space, but even instilling that we should deliberate publicly and show what we know, show our culture, right? We, even as women, we talk about in the Anu way, it says a covered woman is showing her culture, right? So even when we get on these public channels and we are covered, but we are showing our culture, deliberating on what it is to be Anu, it's a privilege. And I give thanks to Chief Yuya for the constant reminder to do that. Every day, not just even when we're here, and what does it mean to be covered? To be covered is to be authorized, to be accredited by your head and household. So I give thanks to my covering, Chief Yuya. Covering initially comes from the Father, who is covered by Yah. And so it reminds us of, in our declarations of truth, there is a hierarchy of Yah, the Elohim, man, junior man, woman, and children. So when we talk about covering, it's not only the idea of us being physically covered as women, but also spiritually covered, from that hierarchy on down. I'm going to say, do you need volume? Am I low on Clubhouse? So I'm not sure how to get even higher unless I just put it way up to my mouth. So hopefully you can hear me. So I'm gonna just take a second, give thanks, okay, give thanks, Chief. Give thanks, Chief Yuya, in Clubhouse and on YouTube. Peace, Imanaya. Peace, Akuya Visa. Peace, Sister Iris. As always, you're a faithful listener. Give thanks. Peace, Avaras Kush, and give thanks. Peace, Achoti Maria, and peace, Brother Darian. Welcome. So the title today, Something Unholy. Story time. So, I always have a story. So my story is more so like, how did we get to something unholy, and where did it come from? Why was it something unholy? And it's a few things. So I want to share kind of the road to something unholy and what we're discussing today. So I initially wanted to talk about, and I think I mentioned it the last time we were on Clubhouse, the last midday affirmative. I was like, we'll get into gray matter, because we were talking about the baggage and how that translates to the spirits, and it becomes that physical baggage becomes something spiritual, and not negating how we think about things, and that physical brain also being a pathway and a road to the mental, the mind, right? There is a connection. They're not these separate things. And I had mentioned we'll talk about gray matter. So listen, I am Achoti Yaffe, not Yaffe Neil deGrasse Tyson, or what is it? Whatever his name is. I'm not. We're not doing astrophysics and organic chemistry, because I had this whole thing where I was looking up, gray matter in the brain and the neurons and how it moves, and and how it's going to connect that to light being important, and there's definitely a connection, but it was like, don't do the abstract. Chief always says, move to the physical, like what is practical before you start doing the abstract. So we're going to talk about practical, and that was also inspired by Akizak, as always, when he talks about in you and not on you, and also the Clubhouse previous about launching from good ground and being honest about what we're showing, how we're showing our culture and like what we talk about. Greetings, Aki Isaiah. What we talk about, and how we really are going to help other women or other sisters who listen to these segments, because she said like we I guess like there's an intimidation. Oh, people sound so smart. And I said, we janky, and it's still janky. There's things that it's like, why aren't you doing what you were told? Like, being unwise. And it's like, be honest about what's happening, right? Be honest about like life that's being poured in, and then I'm not transforming it and then producing and showing and growing and proving as I should. So, and we came to unholy, and that goes to also like as I'm talking about like showing, improving, and being in the public space, and we talk about things, and like we have conversations. I have conversations with some of the other sisters about like how are we going to promote this, and like we talk about like little tricks and things that we use on social media to get messages out, and like what's being popular, what the algorithm is doing, and blah blah blah. And we know like some of it is like the songs and the music. And if any of you, are active with social media, and you have businesses and messages that you want to promote, you know that there are certain things that are popular. And I think one that's right now is it's called Unholy. And so after like a strong or maybe 2 days, like since Yom Shishi, well, it's more than 2 days. It's been like a culmination of things that, what do I want to discuss, and like going back and forth and deliberating with my sister on like what should happen. It just kind of came naturally. We talked about, the song and like why it's so popular and what are people doing. And I was like, oh, well, you know what? I could relate that to, what I want to talk about when it comes to darkness. And instead of trying to sit there and be an organic chemist and bring in the brain and the neurons, and then also bring in talking about the universe and dark matter and dark energy, and why the universe is expanding and the darkness being woman, and then losing everybody completely. We talk about just like the unholiness of things and how we sit in unholiness, how we are being and doing things, or being or doing something, being and doing something unholy, because we're sitting in a space where we don't want to grow, right? So how do we start? Well, first, like, what is unholy? What is it? And I'm sure there's a way, and maybe it'll come up during the bill. So this is truly going to be a bill. So I encourage everyone to, share and chime in on the ideas and examples of like being unholy, how you've been unholy, how you're doing something unholy, what you've observed as unholy. And I can also only share from like the woman's space. So I'm not going to sit here and say like, men have been, that's not what we're going to do. And truth be told, when we're talking about being unholy, it's like, how are we sitting in like this dark space where we are not allowing light to penetrate? And then we continue to hide secrets and do things, like the Gollum in secret, my precious, and do all those things. That's being unholy. But what is unholy? So it's, wicked. Being anything outside of your natural function. And not only just doing and being, but knowingly doing and being anything outside of your natural function. Darkness not receiving light and then transforming it to produce and grow what has been given, but yet subsisting on constant pouring of light and then just being a black hole. And it's not to say that black holes do have energy, there's power, but we don't know what's in there, right? And so because we don't know, when we're in this physical experience and plane as human beings, we can't say what's happening. We don't know what's happening because we can't see it. We talked about that in the looking glass and like reflections. Like you need light to be able to see things. So if you are just, existing and it's just sitting in darkness and you know that there's supposed to be light to be able to exhibit and express what's being given and shown, then it is moving in a wickedness in a sense, and it's being unholy. When we think about scripture, the first mentioned is Leviticus. We're talking about laws, right? So like when I said like doing and being anything outside of natural function, we are supposed to follow law. And that in a sense supposed to be ingrained. That's the in you and not on you. That's the natural function. So when we knowingly move outside of those spaces, knowingly move outside of the idea of covering, Elohim, man, junior man, we move outside of that hierarchy, wicked, unholy. So in Leviticus 10, 8 through 11, and the Lord spake to Aaron, saying, do not drink wine nor strong drink, thou, nor thy sons with thee, when ye go into the tabernacle of the congregation, lest ye die. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations, and that ye may put difference between holy and unholy, and between clean and unclean, and that ye may teach the children of Israel all the statutes which the Lord hath spoken unto them by the hand of Moshe. That's the King James Version, if I'm not mistaken. So that idea, like in Leviticus 10:10, ye may put difference between holy and unholy. And yes, he's telling him, so Chief always says, like, who's speaking, who's being spoken to, and what is the dispensation at that time. And this is when the children of Israel, and namely Aaron, is getting instruction directly from Yah. This is him getting the laws that shall be set down and set forth to the children of Israel. And he's telling him, don't be up in here drinking wine and getting drunk and like having your wits not really fully about you. You need to be able to discern the difference between something that is kodesh and something that is hol. Hol is the Hebrew word for unholy. You need to be able to distinguish something that is tamea or tahor, clean and unclean. I think I said unclean and clean. So tahor versus tamea, clean and unclean. You need to be able to discern. So you can't, sit there and do things like the commoners. You have to be divine and set apart. And the word unclean, when we do look it up in scripture, we go deeper into the Hebrew. I'm sorry, the word unholy, when we look at it up in scripture and go deeper into the Hebrew meaning, it also means profane, something that is profane, something that is common. So then it was, we are expected, what's ingrained into the law is to be expected to follow it. If we're not, we're doing things that are not divine, and we're settling in being common. So the idea of even the idea of the song that we were, trying to figure out, oh, should we use it, should we not? It's common. Everybody's using it. So why go into what everyone is doing because it's common? That's unholy. And interesting, the song is unholy and it's everywhere. All the commoners are using it. We want to be divine and set apart. As women, we want to make sure that we are reflecting light, being divine, following the hierarchy, and not being common. Many times, and she pointed this out 2 strongs ago. How come you don't say my covering? And the answer was because you're afraid of whoever these women are, the women that are still kind of circulating in our orbits are going to be like, what's she doing? What's she talking about? So it's unholy to even hide that, because that's putting something into the dark, And the truth is, what's held in the dark will eventually, when we talk about this plane, it eventually will come to light. So then how do you, then it's have you set yourself up in this place where it's like, well, I don't know how to explain this. Show your culture and be proud of it, because we're supposed to exhibit the law. The law, in the law being given, it's part of our natural function to be in it and sit in it fully. Greetings, Jason Deep. Greetings, Ema Yakira Eden. And I think that's it. I don't know if anybody else joined us on Clubhouse. So I'm going to pause really quickly, because I did mention a few things, what is unholy, wicked, doing things that are outside of our culture, doing or being something unholy is outside of our natural function, right? Profane, common, You know, what are the common things that we do all the time and then make excuses for them? So I'm gonna pause and like open up the floor before I move forward, for anyone to build on, you know, what was just shared about unholy. Even if it's, you know, how have you been doing, or how, or being something unholy.
What was the question again? You asked some people being unholy.
Being or doing something unholy. Yes.
Okay, so I'll take a stab at it. I would say there are certain things that I need to accomplish that I have been procrastinating on for various reasons, and by way of that procrastination, I have stunted my ability to change in that area or grow in that area. So holiness, or to be holy, is to be on fire, you know, coming from the Helios. So it's representing that sun center, you know, where you become that light and that sun, where you're casting away all things that would be cold, or all things that would be freezing and not moving. So the procrastination is a freezing, you know, it's a stagnation, if you will. And that freezing disallows or blocks the possibility for transformation.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a couple of things I need to knock out that I have avoided just because of the discomfort of it, of having to take care of it, you know, things like that. So I would say that those have been some of the unholy things that I'm even currently doing now, because I have some things that still need to get done.
Give thanks. You know, when you said the procrastination and you linked it to being on fire is what holiness is, like the Helios Biblios, like the little sun books. Like, yeah. And it made me think like that fire is light. And so when we're not on fire, there's no light, there's no heat, there's no warmth, and it's that cold darkness. And it, you know, if we're just sitting in dark, then we're not even moving through the duality that's supposed to be darkness and light, male and female. We're just sitting in one space. And that's what I thought about when you said that. Like even just having that one thing, and it's not to say darkness is inherently bad, because you need it. It's the complement to the light. But if you're just sitting there, it means that you're not even moving and doing, and I'm there, you know, procrastinating and moving really slow on things that you've instructed me to do. And so it's, you know, now sitting in a cold space, having to move forward to the light, and like having to figure out how to fire up the light, find it and fire up the light so that I can get that engine going and be on fire and move from that cold space into the warmth and the heat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thought, you know, it's a thought matrix. You know, when you are moving with holiness, well, you're only moving with holiness. Without holiness, you can't move. Because to be holy is to be able to connect with that which animates you, to connect with the soul. You know, that's why in ancient times you had the Holy of the Holies, you know, which this was a special part of a tent that you would be able to go into if you had subjected your consciousness to the purging and the cleaning that it actually needed, you know. And then later, for some people, this became symbolized by the concept of Zion, you know, and Zion being that centermost, or that holy city, like New Jerusalem, but being that centermost spiritual consciousness. So your holiness becomes like a stronghold, you know, that's put on a hill. That's Zion. Zion is a place that's on a hill. And when you're walking in the knowing, and you're walking in the faith of your higher consciousness, and you become one with the Elohim that would visit the Holy of Holies. outside of the tent, if you will. You're outside of the teachings. You're outside of the consciousness that would fill your heart, the consciousness that would fill your mind. And outside of that, you never have a clear conscience, because you won't have the humility that's required to seek truth, to burn things away. So there's a strength that comes with holiness, if you will. There's a courage that comes with holiness, and there's a communing. That's why, like, they call it Holy Communion. I think the Catholics call it that. Where they eat the bread and everything like that. But and obviously I guess for them, that's a physical sort of observance. But there's a metaphysical observance that's most important, where when you're moving in that holiness, or again establishing Zion. And Zion, I broke this down in another way, but you have this. It's a combination of Zion and or like Andu. So it's being in a place or a city where there is sun, or being in an established monument where it is very dry. And dryness represents clarity. When things are dry, things become clear. So without the holiness, even if you move around, you could move around sort of in the cold, but you're just wandering around and you're not really clear on where it is that you're going. And you're constantly moving through obstruction to obstruction with no ability to establish yourself. You can't establish yourself, really, in the cold like that until you're able to come inside of the Holy of Holies, which is the hottest place you could be. And in that place, things become dry, things become clear. There's sun there, and of course, you're able to commune with the Ark of the Covenant. You're able to dial into that radio station now, where you can download the best information.
I was just thinking, like, coming to the hot place, and like where we envision ourselves moving, like the best places, right? And I'm just like, yeah, because think of like some of the worst places to be, like, are hot and humid. So they have all this moisture and this wetness, and you can't even think. You can barely breathe. It feels like you're breathing through a straw. So you want that place that is more arid. When you just talk simple thing is like the weather, the place that's more arid. It can be hot, but it's not to the point where you're suffocating and can't move. And so I'm just using that as a proof of, like, you want to be in that dry, hot place rather than that dank, hot place that stuffs up your nose and you can't even think or breathe or see. Sweat gets all in your eyes and things like that. Peace, Maria. There was something else you mentioned, and I wanted to. There was a thought that I had regarding the unholy and the not moving outside. That's it, like moving outside of the temple or the tabernacle or of the holiest of holies, moving outside of that dry, hot place. Wow, dry, hot place. And well, high too, because we want to be in elevated spaces. And it was the idea of, like, once you learn about truth, once you receive light, and then you spurn it, and then you go away, like, how do you move in anything else? Is it the same, which I think it is, as transgressing the law? And we know that, not knowing the law is no excuse for not following it. At the same time, I think it's, like, even worse when you do know and you decide to change and go over to something else. I think it was Master Menya, like, when he talked about progress, regress, transgress, and you go across and change what you've been given as law and word, and you decide to move outside of the holiest and holies. Like, what happens to you? Like, do you then start moving to signs and symbols and practicing, reading omens, which are things that we know that we were not supposed to do. In the book of I lost it. The book of Enoch, where it talks about the Nephilim and how they got in trouble and why, because they were teaching humans, men, things that should not have been taught. So then when you're moving around doing those things that we know are transgressing the law and doing things that have not have been taught, that's unholy. You're moving outside, and you're no longer in that warmth and the light of what you know is supposed to be the truth, what you know comes from the Elohim, comes from Yah, comes from the covering. And even if you're inside and you're knowingly like not following the instruction that comes from the covering, I think like there was another, you're not being directed. So that's like one of the words we're looking at this strong. In addition to like covered and uncovered, you're not being directed. We're not being receptive and moving with instruction, guidance, and tutelage. In Anu, one is directed when under the cover and vision of Yah, or instructions from elders and wise counsel. And of course, that's your covering comes first when we're following, following the order and the hierarchy of things. You're moving outside the temple, you're moving outside the holiest of holies. So it just made me think that, because we, inside and outside, like people who have come to our new, it's so weird that, the idea of like, moving around in the dark or receding and going back into the dark places, like how that's come up in this past strong, and like in dreams and things that have been going on. So I want to, I'm gonna open up the floor for anyone else to come in and share. And also in the chat, what I'll do is share the link to the live. So if you are interested in not just coming up in Clubhouse, but if you are in YouTube land or in Facebook land, you can join the stream, and it should be in the chat.
That regression, now just filling until your folks show up. But that regression is really just because of pride. People come, like you said, people come into the light and fall back out. And it's the same thing with the dragon. The dragon was cast out because of pride.
Mm-hmm.
It's the I factor. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times people will come into the light and they still are focused on the I. The only reason for coming into the light is I. Because I want to get this. I want to have this. I want to know this. I want to be this. So that pride, it sustains them just long enough for them to get their little lesson, and then they fall back off. And, you can tell, even if they're not using the words I, using the word I all the time, you can still sense a person's pride. So even if a person tries to hide it, because pride, pride and humility go together. That's what I was sharing earlier. And it goes back to that concept of Zion. When your pride, it governs the way you're going to relate to the Most High, to your Creator, to your Maker, to your Originator. That's, your pride is always going to come into effect there. And your humility is going to relate to how you deal with fellow earthlings. So people oftentimes have false humility, and they have puffed up pride. So if you come into a place where there is light, internally, the way that they're gonna interact with their Creator or their Maker is always through rejection, a spirit of rejection. So whatever is said to them by their Creator, they'll reject. And they always have that spirit of rejection where they go to extremes. When someone says something to them, they feel like, you're rejecting me. If you correct me, you rejected me. If you tell me that there's something that I need to work on, like we had one female, you remember her, where she did something really wrong and shady to other people. And when she was called out on it, she said, well, I might as well leave because y'all don't trust me anyway. Which was really just a cop-out. So it's that, instead of saying, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that, that wasn't right, and I understand that, I have to earn that trust, or a different kind of trust, through now being more predictable again and being loyal to what I said I did. Instead of doing that, the spirit of rejection just kicks in and says, well, I'm just going to leave because y'all don't like me, y'all don't trust me. So those two factors are very prominent. And, through pride, you gain access to Babylon. It's just like I've said before with music. If I brag in my music all the time and show my money and show my jewelry, or, just do that, period, you can associate me with celebrity. Because if I act like a celebrity, you'll like me. So I show a lot of money, I wear expensive clothes, yada, yada, yada. Then now Babylon embraces it.
Mm-hmm.
So pride becomes your tool and your matrix mechanism that you utilize the key to enter into the gates of Babylon. Whereas humility is a tool that you enter into the gates of Zion. So again, if a person is coming into a light space and they're coming with the tools of Babylon, and then they're frustrated because those tools and that key doesn't open the door to the deeper mysteries or the deeper secrets and embracing, then they'll get frustrated and say, well, I know where I can use this key. Mm-hmm. I know where I can go with this. And what's sad is that sometimes you have people who are stuck in between two worlds. There's people who, like, for instance, maybe will not be with us anymore, but then they'll get online doing psychic readings, tarot card readings, zodiac, and no one's paying attention to them. They're not getting any views, they're not getting any clients, nothing. They're stuck between two worlds because, like the scriptures say, a double-minded person is unstable in all their ways. So no one's going to want to invest in someone who's unstable, and that double-mindedness reveals that. Like, are you this or are you that? Mm-hmm. And of course, they'll never want to be either one, because then you can hold them accountable to whatever it is that they truly stand for. Mm-hmm. So there are whole entire institutions that are established, social institutions that are established that integrate the elements of pride in a very deep way, like schools and government. I mean, which will have some school pride, patriotic pride, in different businesses where they instill a certain I'm better than your culture, or we're better than them culture. That's all pride. Mm-hmm. Churches, are other institutions that can be extremely pride based, where you're looking down your nose at other people. And again, not invoking that wisdom of humility, because anytime you see somebody reject the wisdom of their covering, if they have a righteous covering, they're rejecting the Most High. From the beginning, right there. So now you already know you're dealing with a prideful person, because they're seeing themselves as greater than, or even less than others. Even when you see yourself as less than another person, that's also pride in that sense. So they kind of suffer from that. And sometimes the pride keeps them locked in a certain kind of loop where they'll just die miserable. Like, I'll just keep this up and just be miserable for the rest of my life. But because I'm so prideful, I can't tell anybody that I'm miserable. I have to lie about it and play it off. Because I don't have the needed accompanying humility that would allow me to enter into the gates of Zion, or enter into the gates of sun and true clarity. Because you can't survive in the face of the sun if you're not humble. Because you got to stoop, you got to get low. If you try to stand up to it, it'll destroy you. So when you try to confront truth with pride, truth will break you. You can only confront truth with humility, and that within itself is a holy act. That's an act of holiness.
So that overabundance, is it making sure that there's the balance between pride and humility, or having more humility than pride is best, or removing pride altogether? Because there's a piece of me that's like, well, if you remove all pride, then does it make you slip into like bummy behavior?
No, because you're confusing pride with dignity.
Got it.
You see, so pride is always a rejection of divine wisdom. That's the essential value of pride. When you're a proud person, you see yourself as greater than, and you eventually see yourself as greater than the divine. This is the war. This is how the wars in heaven started.
Yeah.
So
I'm better than this.
Yeah, I'm better than this. I don't have to do this. I'm not serving these people. I'm just as powerful as you. I'm just as strong as you. So let's see who's who. And as a result, those wars in heaven mirrored, down onto earth. So there's war on earth to this day because that is still war in heaven because you have Elohim, you have divine, or we'll say not even divine, we'll say ascended and advanced beings who suffer from the poison of pride as well. A lot of entities and a lot of people have trouble humbling themselves. So there's really no use for pride, and it may be a difficult concept because it's shoved down your throat so much. But again, you got to remember, we live in social institutions that seek to flip flop and reverse everything that the Creator has created.
Yeah.
So the Creator says, humble yourself, even down to here's the earth. Learn to work the earth. Learn the mystery. You read in the book of Sirach. It's telling you about all of the different sciences and secrets that can be opened up to you just by studying the earth. So studying the earth is humble. It's a humbling sort of process. But Babylon tells you the exact opposite. Let's fly off of the earth to other planets. Let's get away from the earth. And the higher up we can go, we even build high rises all the way up into the sky.
The Tower of Babel.
Right. We build these ziggurats and these towers. And the more we do that, the better we are. And in fact, those who can't come to the upper floors are less than those who operate up top here. So everything that you do and everything that you experience, why is the principal's office never in the basement? Everything that you do and you experience is instilling the exact opposite, which would allow you or perpetuate your survival inside of this universe. So the school pride, family pride, we just go on and on because pride doesn't even denote behavior. Pride is just an attitude. If I promote dignity goes along with a certain behavior. You already know, act in a dignified manner. You already kind of know what that means, even on a subconscious level. But if I say act like you got some pride, that immediately means that you have to act. Because once I say pride, now you have to pretend. Immediately, you got to pretend. That it only invokes a spirit of pretension, pretense. So to act with pride, well, what am I proud of? What am I proud about? So I got to make up something. Well, I'm proud that I play this sport and I'm good at it. So what? There's somebody better. There's always somebody. I'm proud to be a part of this family. It's just a biological function. You just put your penis in the vagina and then a baby comes out. It's not that deep. So you start to make up a whole bunch of things that you should be proud about. But when you're acting with dignity, you immediately model. You can't act in a dignified manner without having an image of what that looks like in your head and modeling that. So that the modeling alone humbles you. Right. But now you're looking towards someone else that you see as, okay, and it should be someone who's divine, of course. You turn to any social media platform right now and try to find dignity. You won't find it, but you'll find a lot of pride. That's your hint right there. You got females that get pulled over jump out of the car and start twerking. Like, for what reason? Like, why are you doing that? That has nothing to do with what's going on in this moment. You know, but that's pride. Because you can't tell me nothing. I'm proud. You know, so, but where's the dignity? Ain't no dignity. We don't do dignity.
Mm-hmm.
Dignity is holy.
So that it makes me think, like, so we're being proud. That is more of the Babylonian mindset, which is common. And it just goes right back to the idea of like being unholy, like doing like the common thing, like, you know, to act like you have something, which where the truth and the reality is dignity and humility. They're more uncommon. They're actually, I would even say they're more rare, because how many people do we find, self included, that are, you know, able to be humbled and come and say, yeah, I did that. I did that wrong.
There's many of them. It's just when your head is up in the clouds because of your pride, you can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of them. You know, sometimes they're the people who work in the office with you who empty out the waste bins.
The waste, true.
You
True.
know, and pay any attention to them because in your mind they're insignificant because they hold no power inside of the structure that I work in. But the truth is they hold all the
lot.
power.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime when you're not there, they go through your stuff.
All your stuff. Mm-hmm.
They hear all the conversations.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, 9 times out of 10, they clean out your desk after you get fired. You know?
And they see all your business.
Well, what I'm saying is, no, they watch you come in and they watch you leave. Mm-hmm. So while you're moving with pride and thinking you're all that, these people usually hold jobs longer than you do.
Right. Right.
They move in and they move you out.
Yep. Very true.
So that's the thing. Like we encounter people who are humble every day, but if you're not moving with the Holy Spirit, you don't see it. You can't recognize it, you know, because you're looking for something else. You're looking for the flare and the shine and the glitz of Babylon.
Yeah.
You know, so you're blinded by that in that sense. You know, you try to stand up to the sun, you're gonna go blind. Mm-hmm. So the only way you can be around sun is to drop your head.
It's to drop your head. You can't be Icarus flying in the melt. You go plummeting into the ocean and drown into the cold, dark deep.
There are people right now who are slowly falling back down into the ocean and don't even know it. They're slowly falling. It's a slow, you know, because they're moving with pride and they got the chest puffed out. And, you know, I'm this and I'm that. Mm-hmm. And there's a false humility, you know, because you can spread a level of false humility just through hashtags on social media and be done with it. You know, I said my kind thing for the day, or I gave some homeless guy a $100 bill and I put it on camera. You know, so everybody sees, you know, that I'm here for the people. Mm-hmm. You know, so there's so many ways that people sometimes are slowly falling. You know, but they can't see it, or maybe they can see it. I don't know, because I'm not in their brains. Yeah. Perhaps they don't care because again, what they're receiving is what they've always wanted. You know, if you've always wanted to sail above the throne of the Most High, you might for a half a minute, you know, but if you don't recognize why you were enabled to do that, then, you know, yeah, you're going to fall. That position is going to be given to someone else who can honor. You know, that's why the last will be first and the first will be last. Mm-hmm. You know, and the meek shall inherit the earth. Mm-hmm. You know, so, yeah, we encounter it all the time. And once you kind of shift your perspective and you just become a kinder person, you see there's a lot of cool people in the earth. There's a lot of people that are humble. And I'm not saying the bulk of the masses, because the bulk of the masses, the 85%ers who are deaf, dumb, and blind. Absolutely. You know, but there's surely more than enough people for you or I or anyone else listening to me that have good, genuine spirit. Mm-hmm. But you're not looking for that. You'll never notice them.
Yeah, and the head's up in the clouds. If you're not gonna go and look below, when you stoop, you do look low. And two things came to mind as you were talking. I'm like, I see like the intersection between the human, like the hummus, the bright man. That's that being in that bright space. Um, but also then the hummus, meaning like humble and low. So like while yeah, we're having this human experience, we are attached, like we're souls in a clay body. So there is that light within the clay body, that brightness, but we're supposed to be humbled by the experience, be low, be at the earth, but not get too attached to it because we have to return.
Well, you're returning to something that's not I. That's the thing. So you're going to be humbled anyway. You're not necessarily humbled by the fact that you've been right. It's the collection of soul energy. So when you are detached from that, then you start to feel like it's I. And this social construction or this social institution of the ego is already here waiting for you. It's been created. You know, we don't start saying I and then figure out the concept of the ego. It doesn't really work that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the ego itself is a social construct. And then we say, oh, I'm being egotistical, or you're being egotistical, because the sense of you having an identity is forced down your throat. As soon as you get into a relationship, the first thing people tell you, don't lose your identity. Don't lose yourself. You see? Mm-hmm. And you're taught to see that this is, again, the essence of being unholy and being prideful. When you're instructed to try to control things that you have no control over. That's the essence of it. You know, to be prideful is to try to control your life. You know, and you're taught that as a child. You know, you got to have control over your life and this and that. But how could I control something that I can't control? How could I be responsible? Like, you got to be responsible for your own life. How could I be responsible for something I can't control? So now I'm going through my entire life with this consistent frustration. Mm-hmm. Because I'm being told things that make no sense, that I can never truly achieve. And so then when something happens in life that may be tragic or unfortunate, the very first thing I say is this: I could have done something different. I could have stopped this. I. Because that sense of responsibility towards one's life has been ingrained in you, but it's a complete nonsensical responsibility because I can't be responsible for what I can't control. And I can't control my life because it's not my life, it's the life. You know, if I were able to control it, I would never let it go out of my body. I would keep it back. Mm-hmm. I would just live for that.
And it makes me think like, I didn't even say the second thing, but it makes me think of the other piece of that. As women, like we move through this space. Peace, Dr. Zach. I think did somebody say Zach 5 times? Greetings. Neo, right? I'm sorry, we said Neo 5 times. I said it in my head. It makes me think of like, you know, being told that as a woman, you have to control this, you know, you have to be able to control what, and you so you move through this space thinking that you're in control of everything, but yeah, you're a boss bee and you got this and that and the third, and I have nothing. Like I'm not even moving on righteous light or righteous instruction. I'm moving on the commoner's instruction that come from everybody else. Many of it, as you described earlier, this strong is like the psyops, you know, whether it be white, gray, or black, like that's all that's being infiltrated through social media, through work and jobs, and how we all think and relate to one another. You know, in Babylon, like thinking that I have some semblance of control when everything was actually out of control, and the opposite of what I should have been doing, should have been behaving.
This is how they kill you. They teach you that to murder you. That's the whole point. Because that I should have control, and many women, females say that because they're really attacked with that. Because again, you're going to be attacked with the thing that also makes the least amount of sense. So like I've spoken to women before, just in terms of physical control and physical safety, and like I used to, well, I still say it sometimes to my children, in particular my boys. I always, like say, like, how's it feel to be sitting here next to me, knowing that in a minute I could just kill you? How do you feel about that? They're like, Mama, why you gotta say that? Well, it's the truth. Like I could just, I could kill all of you. I could kill everybody in this room with my bare hands and let it stick 5 minutes. How do you feel right now while we're watching this Netflix, knowing that I can just get up from my chair and do that to everybody?
Like right? You can get deleted.
Right, just right now I can delete you. I can cancel. If I felt like it, but I don't feel like it. So you good today. But that's the thing. Even with a woman, you're taught, carry a gun on you or carry a knife and all of this stuff, and you'll be safe. Get yourself a home security system or some camera, you'll be safe. And I've taught self-defense to women for years, and one of the things I've always taught is if a man wants you, he's going to get you. Period. So your self-defense is not because you can stab me, I can keep coming at you. You can even shoot me, I can keep coming at you. You can kick me in the testicles, I can keep running at you. You can poke me in the eye, and I may have already grabbed you. So I may have my eyes closed, and I can find your neck and choke you. So there's certain things, regardless of what you do not have control over. You can make certain decisions, or you can put yourself into a position within the collective where you can be kept safe. Mm-hmm. So that's the murderous intent that Babylon has towards even like females, like what you described, because the whole concept of egotism and pride is the diverse expression of infinite. It's or the diversion from infinite. So when we come into a place where we're humbling ourselves, from a deeper sense, what we're doing is we're combining ourselves with the higher awareness and consciousness. When we are egotistical or when we're prideful, we're separating, through that I-ness, whether it's subtle or whether it's blatant, but we're separating ourselves from the wholeness of the unifying force. Mm-hmm. So once that egotism and that separation occurs, we're separating ourselves from the greater force, and we're creating this I reality, this I concept. Then we start to suffer from confusion. We start to suffer from different kind of disembodied suffering, because we're now losing what our divine nature is. Our divine nature is unity. Our divine nature is oneness, and we constantly need to be reminded of it. Mm-hmm. That's why some people go to church all the time, because they need to be in this environment where I'm around other people who want to connect with this higher power, whatever, like I do, people praying and saying whatever, but I'm constantly being reminded that it's not about me. However we may feel about church or whatever, but there's we got to look at things objectively, without bias. So when you are not moving with humility and you don't, and there's that egotism there, then you're not able to transcend your foolishness. You're not able to transcend your stupidity, because your false self will keep you from ever discovering the trueness of your identity. So it keeps you from what's right. And when you're away from your source of what's right, or you feel like I am bonded to this identity, and you sacrifice that bondage to that identity for the liberation that you can have. Yeah. That liberation is, through your spiritual practice, is becoming fully aware, or realizing full awareness, so you become whole again. Mm-hmm. So it's when you remove that and you untie yourself and you de-yoke yourself from the higher being. What happens is that you die quicker because when you're not connected with the true nature of yourself, then you don't know you. You start to lose awareness of what yourself is. So if I don't have awareness of what myself is, I don't even know how to feed myself. I don't know what time I should go to bed. I don't know where I should live. I don't know what fabrics I should wear. I don't know what colors I should surround myself by around. I don't know what language I should speak. You know, there's so many things that I lose because I've learned. I've lost who I really am, and I've lost the state of being where I have soul awareness because egotism is present. And that which in itself begins to dismantle my body because it dismantles my internal systems and I will die quicker. So that sense that you described of, oh, I can control this, whatever, that's someone putting a hit out on you. Literally, they're trying to kill you.
And it's something that's ingrained from very young. It's like, and it goes from generation to generation. Like you need to be in control. Okay, so now teach your kids this and send them to school so they learn the same thing, even the pride. And then you teach your other children. Like, you know, coming up, the women are going to be talking about and dissecting Shahrazad Ali's book, The Black Man's Guide to Understanding the Black Woman. And like some of the first parts are like, you know, the idea of like how we've been unholy because of all of this learned wicked behavior, not even realizing that it's because it's a hit put out on us and we're supposed to then spread it like a cancer and keep continuing it as we have children and offspring and live amongst one another. And it's like you said in the podcast, the devilish behavior, absorbing the human reality, like, you know, not being humble, just like, you know, I'm just gonna stay here and be disconnected from what I am. I also had a thought of like the idea of pride and the psyops. I don't know which one it is, if it's black, white, or gray, but just like you made the example of like, yes, we can. I was like, well, there's the other one from his counterpart. When they go low, we go high. And I'm like, yeah, that's that pride. Maybe we should be low. And I'm not saying in that sense of you know, downing other people, because that's not humble. But like, be low. Don't be this like proud person and lose sight of what's happening and what's going on. Sorry.
When she says that, or she or he says that when they go low, we go high. What are you basing your ascension upon? What are your high principles?
I don't know. It sounds good to say.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, for me, I consider myself to be a sexist, right? I'm also an ageist, right? So I recognize that there is a difference between the genders and that there are certain roles that we are specifically designed and more suited for, right? And the same thing in terms of age, that there is a difference between someone who's 70 years old and someone who's 17 years old. And they are suited for different responsibilities inside of a healthy community where they can still both have a relevant contribution. Now, that crew would say that that's a low-brow sort of primitive way of thinking. So what would high be? Well, we're gonna blur the lines into, you know, this homogenous sort of state of being between the genders. There is no difference. Whatever you can do, I can do. And I don't even want to use the word could. I'm gonna use the word should. Whatever you do, I should do. You know, you wanna box and get into the ring. I'm a box and get into the ring. You know, whatever it is, right? So when they say we go high, that's what I'm saying. The important thing is what culture you standing on. Like, what's high? What are your highest ideas? You know, so when you feel like you're doing something, because I mean, that same individual, we praise him because he killed somebody that
no, because we separated that. There's no church and state.
Right.
We separated that.
But you need to change the money then.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And you need to stop using that as the basis for whatever you want to get done in this country. You still go into those churches to campaign.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when someone needs some type of exemption or something, you still primarily want them to use language out of the Bible.
Put your hand on this and swear. For what?
Put your hand and swear that you, even though they allow you now to just affirm with an oath, but they first still pull out the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
So this Christian statement. And when you present an alternative sort of way of being, they consider that to be low. That's low thinking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's better for me to go to God and ask for forgiveness. That's higher than me having a religion where you take Islam. You gain your merit by what you do. And in Christianity, you gain your merit by acknowledging what has been done for you. Christ did it all. You know, so what's high? It's high that I sit on my behind and do the wickedest, most crazy things, but acknowledge that Christ forgives me. Or it's higher that I put the work in to be a righteous and peaceful person so that I will be looked upon favorably in the eyes of my God.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm not saying the other is better. But I'm just saying that that we go high thing, that can be anything.
You know, Akizak, I know you were here. I don't want to keep cutting it.
Greetings and salutations. Hey, y'all making me think a lot, man. Making me think a lot, especially beginning with the pride. And I'm like, how many times have I heard somebody say, take pride in your work? Take pride in what you do. Especially in sports, it's like one thing that you always say is everything is a carryover. So even if you are losing the game, or even if things are not going your way, or even if you may have started wrong, take pride in your work and take pride in how you finish, because everything will carry over into the next game, or how you do things tomorrow, or how you do things, moving forward. And like when I was just listening, it's like, yeah, but it is getting you to buy into something that really is irrelevant, right? And it made me start thinking of, like, even the song, I wrote it, and what happens if one starts to replace
Lying. But you don't get up here lying. You were not thinking nothing about that song.
I swear to goodness, because I was like, when you were saying that, I was like, okay, if royalty, instead of being prideful, then it'll start making you go down a different street. But I'm like, but royalty would tell you this is like, wouldn't even have you in certain things, whereas pride will put you in it, but saying that since you in it, then ultimately I'm going to take pride in my work and what I'm doing. So almost in the sense of one becoming a slave because one wasn't doing what they were supposed to be doing or moving like they were royalty, then now you got to take pride in doing the best that you can to pick them, or whatever the case may be. Where somebody says, okay, this is where I'm at, so this is what I'm supposed to do at this particular time.
Mm-hmm.
But it also made me think, though, there is some use for it in the sense of to get one to invest. Because if one is not invested and one is not being prideful of what they're doing, then what are they doing? Where is their attention going? It's almost in the sense of where I see some youth, they don't have any motivation. They don't have any, they wake up and they just do whatever they feel like. Just have some pride in your own room. Make your bed. Like the small things of just, of doing the small things that carry over, that'll get somebody to invest in, even in studying, right? Or having pride in your own growth and evolution. Take some accountability into that, as opposed to just moving haphazardly and thinking that things are going to be there forever. That's also what I was thinking too. It was just all as everybody was. So yeah.
Yeah, man, when you're thinking too much, at least in my sports, that's when you get hurt. When you're thinking too much. You know, in fact, that's what slows you up.
Right.
You can watch there's reels that they have on YouTube. You know, like just look up any real like extreme knockouts or something like that, and you'll find that a lot of times guys get in the ring and they get knocked out, and it's usually behind them throwing a nice combination or them feeling overconfident, and they start dancing in the ring and acting stupid, and you know, somebody puts it on them. You know, but sometimes, because I've done it myself, you know, in the beginning, you know, my career, I hit someone once and knocked him out, but on his way down, he clocked me so hard I saw stars. You know, and he was falling down in his last swing, and I wasn't, you know, I knew I hit him square, and I kind of dropped my guard, I loosened up, and as he was falling, dazed out, he's like, all right, one for the road. I'm not going out like you sucker, you know, and I was dazed, you know. So that's an example of like, because I was being prideful, I was like, yeah, you know, I hit that hard, look, and I ended up getting hit hard as well, you know, even though he was, you know, still falling to the mat. So what I'm saying is that that's pride in our work, because we think it's our work as opposed to being in the flow. When you're in the flow, you're humble, because you're recognizing that whatever I'm doing and whatever force that I'm exerting, whatever know-how, whatever gift, acumen, talent, it's not coming from me. So therefore, as the result, because like if I'm playing, even if I'm boxing, I can't be proud about my skills as a fighter, because they're not really my skills, because I didn't invent this thing. You know, if no one ever taught me how to throw a punch properly, I would have probably broke my doggone hand off my wrist by now. Or how to throw a perfect kick. I would have hyperextended my leg out of joint by now. I'd be, you know, all banged up. Someone had to say, no, this is how you throw. This is how you hold your wrist. This is how you extend your arm. This is how you hold your toes when you're doing a front kick. This is how you hold your toes when you're doing a roundhouse kick. So forth and so on. So how could I be proud in someone else's thing that was gifted to me? But I can, is a word that you use, I can be invested. I can be invested in what I'm doing, and I can be totally present and aware in what I'm doing. So that way I can channel the more supreme intelligence that would go to me, so I can be successful in what I'm doing. But to be proud about what I'm doing separates me from the spiritual component of it. Anything you do has a seen and the unseen. And then the moment you insert pride into it, you cut off the unseen, because it's just me and what I see. It's just now I'm dealing with my own material effect, if you will. You know, so I would say, like you said, even cleaning your room, don't be proud about none of that. You don't even know how to build a room.
It's a carryover.
I can't be proud in anything that I did not originate. I'm not the originator of any of these things. So what is it? Because the originator is allowed that stamp of separation. Because most of the time you originate something that is truly original.
Yeah.
You have to separate from the herd, you know, or the masses of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing new under the sun at this point. Everything's already been done. So therefore, there's no reason to be proud. I mean, we talk about rockets and going to, you know, flying up in the air and trying to go to different planets. And then the deeper we study ancient literature, we find out that somebody already did that. You know, you ain't coming up with robots. Well, you know, clones and Tamahu. The Tamahu, as Sister Yaffe mentioned earlier, that's a form of a robot. That's something that was programmed and made for a certain function, which really is more advanced than a robot. Because I mean, yeah, we have robotics, but when we get to the point where tablets or Androids, then we'll say, wow, we really did something. But what if you could create a whole organic being that you create with the innate drive to go find gold and dig it up, and they don't know why. Well, you just created a highly advanced sentient robot. So all of this stuff has already been done. So why would you be proud about any of it when it's somebody else's or something else's?
You know what? That just like cemented. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So if I come from like all these different fighting movies that I watch, they challenge each other from different dojos, right? Now, though they may have not invented the fighting style, it's still like having some pride into where you came from, of saying I'm with this group and then with this group, so now we're gonna meet in the middle. I would also akin that to, and this like even if I'm sitting in a room with LCSWs and MDs and PhDs and psychologists and discussing a client or whatever the case may be, I'm coming from a stance of an Anu perspective, where one is coming from I don't know where their perspective is coming from. And it's like one is wrong, and if they take pride in their work and saying, all right, this is where I come from, in my background.
Yeah, but that's not what you're doing. Yeah, but that's cool how you try to make sense. You try to put the fighting in it. You say nothing like, oh yeah, you talking about fighting. But it didn't work. So, first of all, with the fighting thing, that's still pride. Because when you have different martial arts schools, why are you learning martial arts? Are you learning? To me, it's corny. If I'm learning an art just to fight somebody else, that's stupid. Because you can go through your life without physically having to fight another human being. That's not an impossibility. So when you really train in the art, you learn that the fight is always with yourself. Because I know some people, and you all know some people, where you could probably rile them up and punch somebody in the face to get upset, punch somebody in the face and go upside their head. But if you try to rile them up to get up at 5 or 6 a.m. to go running and to work out and see which one you're able to get them to. It's easy to express, some pride and go beat somebody up. It's hard to have that fight with yourself, though. Man, I don't feel like getting up. It's cold. I'm lazy. I'm out of shape. I ate ice cream for dinner last night, so I know I'm going to throw up if I try to work out today.
Right.
So, you know what I mean? So the reason when you have, even in those movies where one school will be fighting another school, and it's important, even why you brought it up, it's a good point, because like with so many things that you've done, when one might ask, well, why is society always trying to trick us and fool us up? It's for money. It's for resources. That's what all of this is about. To control resources on the planet that they didn't even create. So when you have different schools fighting each other like that, it's for money. Because if I come to town and I have a style, or I'm a really good trainer, I'm a really good teacher, then I threaten the other schools that are there. So if I want to go on the offensive and I want to start if I'm doing too much and I want to try to start stealing people's students, I'll go to their school and say, yo, where's your master? I want to fight. And once I show you that my style, my skill is superior, you can come train with me. You can pay, but you can come train with me. Or it might be vice versa. So that ain't about nothing right there. Now, as far as sitting around people who are entitled, the titles mean nothing. And what you're representing, like you said, well, I don't know where it came from, right? So how could I have pride in it? At the end of the day, if I'm sitting around and I'm discussing a client or an issue that they may have, which reminds me, I never got back to you. I'm sorry. I will. It got totally lost in my time. sitting around and I'm discussing someone else, I mean, there's so many opportunities for humility even in that, right? Why are we discussing this client? Is it because we want to help them, or because we're happy that we're not them, and we want to observe, from a distance? That's why we're discussing this particular person who wakes up in the middle of the night crying and all of these different things, and has flashbacks of this, of that, and that, and that, because we have hardened our heart, and we're looking at them externally as if they're non-human, almost they're just a client. Is it that, or do we truly and honestly want to help? And if we truly and honestly if we want to help, there's no pride in it. How could there be? Because remember, pride is how you connect to the Most High, or how you relate to the Most High through your rejection of the Most High's wisdom. Humility is how you connect to your fellow man and fellow woman. So the moment I say I want to help, and I'm sincere in wanting to help, there's humility. But if wisdom is being handed to me, and I say, well, let me tell you where I come from, that's not your wisdom. You see, so now you're being prideful.
And this is why they pay you the big bucks. I thought I had a point.
I was gonna add that, like, the idea, like the clinicians or whatever in the room discussing the patient. Some of it they really want to help, but because it comes, it's a means to an end. Because if I help and I do this, it actually benefits me. So like the end result is that I want to help them do that, because then I get the recognition for being this awesome, wonderful person, and the person who cured such and such, or figured out how to mitigate symptoms of whatever issue is going on. And then I'll put my names will be in the books, and you all have to learn about me, as the rest of my A-likes try to kill y'all. I was like, what I thought about when you were saying that. I'm like, yeah, and that's the pride. Like, what is it really stemming from, wanting to help someone? I'm going to go ahead. I'll get that. Go ahead, and then I'll move to Aki Darian.
But I see people in here, so I'll just wait. I'll hold on to it.
Okay. Aki Darian, give thanks for joining. The floor is yours. Or not.
Back like I never left. All right, so
Okay. Well, we be having trouble with the sound. So, Aki Darian, you might want to leave and come back, and then we can hear you. Okay.
He just left.
Alright, so listening to everybody, I was thinking about, personally, because, the starting off, it was about something that, we may be doing, or that would make us unholy. And one of my things I was thinking about was me not having enough resolve. And I was thinking about in chemistry, when you're making a solution, there's a solvent that creates a solution. And, as a person brings, or as you mix a solute into a solvent, it breaks it down into something that creates a solution. And there's a heat that is released usually. And I was thinking about, I've heard Chief mention in the past, sitting at the feet of the elders. And I was thinking about how there is a lack of that. And I know I didn't grow up with it, where I was taught to, okay, when you learn something new or when you gain something, go talk to someone older than you, and show them this. And then they act as that solvent that goes, hey, no, you don't need this. And I appreciate I knew for that, because I knew it's like a solvent that, okay, like you mentioned earlier, Chief, you and Zach were talking about thinking too much. Like, okay, I'm thinking so much, I got this new idea. All right, let me run that against the Anu way, or run that against my principles, or whatever, so I can break down to create a solution that's say my solute is something that I hold as a pride in myself. I take that, and when I'm running through that solvent, I may lose that notoriety, but I'm actually helping somebody in the solution. That's all I wanted to add. Give thanks.
Give thanks, Akadarian. Give thanks.
Yeah, those are good points, man, because you're right, man. A lot of times people are trying to leave their mark, and that's the problem. You know, if there's nothing new under the sun, then whatever glyph or character or mark that you've been bestowed has already been here. So you trying to deepen it is only creating an imbalance. You know, whether you think you come up with an idea or whatever, the idea's already been here. You know, it's been here, and even if it hasn't been here in the physical, it's been here in the non-physical. You know, so once we get past that point of trying to leave our mark, you know, that's one of the reasons why music is so horrible today. Because everybody's trying to create something different to the point that it sounds like trash. You know, and instead of looking at what was done that was healthy. There was a time when music was done because, you know, we take the slogan of hip hop in the beginning, love, peace, and having fun. You know, so it was about let's get together. Ain't nobody got no money. We might not even have electricity in our apartments, but we can tap into this pole. We can bring our little sound set, play some music. If we do it in the park, it's free, or on the block, whatever, and we can just dance and have fun. Right? Love, peace, and having fun. And not be shooting each other. You know, and then that transforms because that's the heaven that gets disrupted by the pride. That's why there's always wars in heaven, because everything starts off unified, and then there's a now we form crews. We're from here, we're from here, we're from here. And that segregation now creates, we're going to leave our mark. Whereas we were more powerful when no one was really leaving the mark, but just building up this vortex of energy.
It makes me think of the idea like that leaving the mark, as Akadarian pointed out, and then how you said like it creates imbalance because it's already been done, so you're only making the groove deeper. The groove is already there, and it is what it is. You making it deeper is a problem, and that's the idea of the unholy. Like I'm just coming in because I care about the I and what I leave behind, rather than being invested in something righteous that's already here. Or I wonder if like even giving allegiance to something righteous that's already here. You know, the newsletter, the blog post, today talks about, you know, being allegiant and it, you know, requiring us to defend and uphold culture. Well, instead, you know, it's like if you're moving in that unholy space, it's like, you know, bump that. I'm gonna be up high while, you know, the peons are down low, and I'm gonna do what I want to do and not care about how it affects the balance of anything.
Hold up. Now, isn't there a space though where if the I is still going to say I need to have some culture, right? It's going to recognize that it needs to move from one space to another. So if I remove the I, then what would be the point of investing in any culture, in a sense?
We never said remove the I. No, you don't have to move the I. But when you establish the I as an institution, is when you get into trouble. It's just like in America, eating food is a culture. Right? We're not saying don't eat food. Sure, get your sustenance. But when your culture revolves around it, or it creates its own separate culture, then it's problematic. So it's the same thing with the ego. You know, we can, in order to be separated from the masses of insanity, you have to have some sense of I. I am this. You know, so because I am this, I don't do that you do. Right? So that level of segregation is fine. But where it becomes dangerous is when you create an entire system of thinking based upon separation. You know, and that's where you get a lot of religious pride and dogma. We're better than them because we're this.
Leave.
Before I move on to Achoti Maria, I think that you did have something that you wanted to say. Did you already get that out with your question, or did you have something? Did you want to share it now?
The dojo that you guys come from is really good. It's really good. That's all I want. Just chopping up my little baby points.
Nah, man. You know what? I'm glad you're bringing them up because this is the pride part, right? So pride would have you not saying anything. Like so many people might be listening, it might be like, yeah, I hate, but right, that fall. That makes a lot of sense, but at least you're like, okay, but what about this and what about that? So what you're doing is you're putting all of those lower, darker thoughts that are whispering in your ear, and you're like, man, stop whispering in my ear.
Bring them to
And
life.
you're just pushing them into the middle of the floor.
Yeah.
Here, say it to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see if you can survive in the sunlight. Because right now, in this cipher, there's light, there's sun. So if you get a whisper of a thought that's telling you something that's against what's being presented, that's perfectly fine. Because you might push it in the middle of the room. It's like that little child that keeps pulling on you because they want to dance and see the dances. And the guy will go and dance in front of you. They want to embarrass themselves and they dance better than anybody else. Like, all right, shorty, you got it. So it's the same thing with a thought. Can you survive in this space? If you can't, hey man, you gotta off yourself. You gotta go. But if you can, cool. Now you just gave us something else to build on. So that being humble enough to share a thought that may feel divergent, that's actually how you grow. If you're not just doing it for the point of just to be contrary. I got something that's gonna stump you.
What about this?
So somebody came at you with a knife. You not protect yourself because you say, you see, or would you say, I want to live?
Achoti Maria, the floor is yours, my dear.
Peace, everyone. Greetings to you. Thank you so much for so much. The concept of, well, not even a concept, pride, right? When we think about pride, immediately I thought about the phrase "pride comes before a fall," right? So it's like, before you take the dive to humility, whatever it is that you said or did, is going to actually dissipate pride, so that humility can actually be something that we experience. As you're talking about pride, I thought of Proverbs. So in Proverbs 13, it speaks of the Elohim putting the answer for a man on his tongue. It actually says the preparations of the heart in man and the answer on the tongue is from the Most High, is from the Elohim. And as you're sharing, Chief, and even the build with Zach, all I think about is how we let that Satan or the brain take over. And it happens with me. It takes over because I want to make sure, okay, my thoughts is in order, and what I would like to share, makes sense. The sad thing is, what I'm thinking makes sense is off of my low order thinking, my simplistic idea of what I think is a wholesome thought. And that pride puts us in a place where we do block off our ability to, I don't want to use the word channel because I don't want anyone to start thinking of, like gobbledygook, whatever, but it blocks us from being able to be open for the Most High, the Elohim, to place, the mind level thoughts into conversation or a cipher through us. All right, and so that pride, it chops us down. It diminishes what we can actually, or what we should actually bring into a space in many ways. So that, as you were talking about pride, I was holding back because I'm like, okay, I want to jump on pride, because I do see how that shows up even when I want to build or share or add. And then there was another part of the conversation that spoke about people speaking about others. And immediately all I can think of was, gossip, right? All I could think about was slander and gossip. And sometimes that works for others because they're not even working on themselves. And so what it does is, in gossiping or speaking about another, it allows you to ignore or totally, pull the veil. You know how they have those, what do you call those curtains? The blackout curtains. It allows you to kind of pull a blackout curtain over what you should be working on, and you get engrossed in having a conversation about another person, and that blindsides you, because then you're so focused on diminishing another person, you don't even focus on improving self. So part of it too is it allows you to focus on another person's issue as opposed to actually looking at self and saying, okay, how does that show up in me? So those are some of the things that I thought of as we were building on, pride. But then I thought also that it was important to share a little bit about the idea of gossip.
Yeah, I think that's powerful, Maria, as far as, in relationship to pride and everything, because it is another delusion that gossip comes out of, wherein that where pride is fueled by delusion, because a healthier form of like I said, you could use dignity or even self-esteem. Self-esteem is a healthier form of pride, because when you esteem something, you don't immediately raise it and elevate it. What you do is you determine its value. Esteem is related to the word to estimate. So if I have self-esteem, I've done a self-evaluation, and I may decide, I'm doing well or I'm not doing so well at this particular task, but I'm still going to have esteem because I'm giving myself an objective evaluation. And when you look at gossip in a similar way, gossip is, it comes from the word godsip, Godsib, which is, sib is short for sibling, so we get the word sibling. So when someone gossips or gossips, they're equating themselves as a sibling to what people would perceive to be as God. And most people's perception of a God is that of something that's perfect. So if it's perfect, it need not have any sort of esteem. It need not evaluate itself because it's not growing, because it's perfect. So if it's not growing, then it has all this room and space to now evaluate other people, because there's no growth within itself that it would have to evaluate. So even by, like that idea term that you're using, gossip or God sibling, it's only an act of people who are dead, because they have that space to do that, and they equate themselves with something that does not grow. And growth, a lot of times when we do gossip, a lot of times it's because someone is growing. And that's what we feel we have to comment on. Maybe they tried something and it failed, or maybe they were married and the marriage didn't work out, but they're trying. They're trying to change and they're trying to grow. Or they're just a horrible person and they're going through the experiences that horrible people go through. But that may be a part of the So, but because we're not experiencing that, then we now think we're the sibling of God.
It's so sad because in all the ways of a man, his own ways are clean in his own eyes, but his his heart will be weighed, and that weighing is what produces I guess it is that assessment of like, here, this is where you are, and I wonder too, even when that happens and there's that idea of the I, right? That I that was being mentioned earlier. That idea of the I, where it disconnects you or disconnects us or whomever from those moments or opportunities to grow because of actual assessment or taking in another person's assessment of us. And in the case of women, taking in the instruction given to us by our heads, by our coverings, and growing and changing and shifting as opposed to, shifting back into thinking about another person and having that conversation around them. And I think about how it affects us on our health, how it affects how not so much our growth even, but just our physical health, right? On a biological level. So those are, as you're sharing those things, more of the proverbs started popping up, and that you get to see how there is that thread. Like when we think we can segregate or separate who we are, it becomes very difficult because we are not. Like, we're one and we have these components, and all of the other components affect each other.
So when you were just speaking, it made me think of when people gossip. I was thinking a form of gossip then would be bibliography. But I'm guessing then, which ultimately would lend one to pride of saying that this is where I got this information from. Because I remember before there was something that was said that even if you say, okay, this is where I got it from, we got to figure out where did they get it from, and then where did they get it from, and then start to see that ultimately somebody's information might have been based on their opinion the entire time, which now I guess then are we looking at that in the sense of, is it gossip if it's not growing? And ultimately is keeping one in a dead space, but then becomes shareable literature if it allows or offers one an opportunity to grow and move beyond. So then therefore one would be unholy and then holy. I guess.
Well, I think it depends on who you're speaking of. Because not everyone's opinion is valued equally. So I think that's like, it's something that you have to kind of put within inside of a certain context. As you probably know, and anybody else, none of my books have bibliographies. So, and it's because, when I write, I just sit down in the park or wherever and I just start writing. That doesn't mean that, and I just came up with everything. It's just all opinion or whatever. It means that I've spent, first of all, it means part of me has always felt that bibliographies are a little silly. Part of me. Because just because I reference it to something else doesn't mean that thing was true. Or like when you have people who say, well, I need to see it if you tell them something. Because I've had people say this to me before. I'll say something, they say, well, show it to me in a book. That's kind of enslaved. Where everything, if it's in black and white, it's got to be true. It's like if it's on the news, it's got to be true, especially if it's CNN. It's real,
Right. This ain't gospel. This is gospel truth.
Right, exactly. This is the gospel truth. Look, it's in black and white. So everybody has their own way of approaching that. But also, I don't use bibliographies because I honestly can't remember everywhere I get everything because I channel a lot when I write. So when you've been involved in these works for as many years as I have, some of the things I might say some old man on the corner told me 30 years ago, or like when you read the 14 Keys, and in the first chapter I tell you where I got it from. It was, from my uncle. Why I said a community elder, my uncle. We was sitting in my truck, and he said, "Yeah, we need the 14 African principles. We're gonna need some." And he said, the Nguzo Saba and the laws of Ma'at. I just called it the 14 Keys, but I said this is where I got it from. And then, but after that, then I just, went in, right? So I think it's a contextual sort of thing in that sense. And when we're exploring information, I think sometimes it's important to determine like what mind we're approaching it with. Are we approaching it with the Western mind or approaching it with the Eastern mind?
Mm-hmm.
Because with the Eastern mind, when my uncle said that, I didn't say, "Where you getting that from?" I wouldn't do that. He orally said something to me, and that's it. My uncle said it. There's nothing else beyond that. That's my uncle. I'm sorry for those alarms. So I need no other verification other than the fact that that's my uncle who said it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think again it's context. You know what I mean? If you say something to me, and I don't know your source, then yeah, I might need a bibliography.
Yeah.
But if I'm exploring information and I'm exploring it within my own community, then I feel pretty safe. But outside of that, yeah, I want to know if you're just pulling this out of your butt or what. So yeah, I think the context is important in that sense. But sometimes the people, and I have seen people who write books, sometimes who do this, they use the bibliography, yes, to be proud because I want to show you all the books I read, and they'll ask. I've had a lot of people ask me for words on their books. I haven't done one yet, not yet, because I know, most of the time when they ask me, they want to get that clout, and I don't want to give it to you. So go get it from somebody else. I don't want to partake in that.
Gotta generate it yourself.
Right. Go get it the hard way, get it out the mud like I did.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? You can't get it. I didn't have no cheap view, and the elders that I did have, nobody knew them anyway, except for back in Nigeria. So I had to get it out the mud. I'm still getting it out the mud.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I'm not. So that's the thing. Yeah. So sometimes those things are used, for pride, but again, we have to have the spirit of discernment where we can kind of sense and intuit and develop that intuition, where we know where a person is coming from in that sense. I know me personally, I don't like to read books that have a lot of quotes from other books and authors in them. I get bored with that so quick. I want to, when you're reading a book or something, you're having a conversation with that writer. I want to have a conversation with the writer. Because I can go pull all these books together myself, but that's me.
Yeah. You know what? As you were talking about that discernment, it brought me right back to the scripture in Leviticus. Like, you may put the difference between holy and unholy and clean and unclean. And so when you're talking about like how you view things, like what mindset, that it goes back to the previous verse before that. Like, don't be wine and strong drink. And it made me think like drunk with the wine of the world. Like, if we're looking at something through eyes or a countenance that's drunk with the wine of the world, like, of course you're going to be like, well, where you get that from? Because that's what the world says. Like, well, if you don't have something that has that proof of list that you read all these books, or it's somewhere else and someone else said it, then it doesn't exist. It's not true, and it doesn't make sense. Yet all of the books that are used in schools and history, they're using like, oh, it came from here. But then more and more we're finding out like the source of where all these things came from was a lie. What about that part?
The source where they come from is the Vatican. I've
the
been
demon.
teaching that for years. It's the Pope who approves, all of the literature that goes out, even in America. The Pope in Italy, approves the literature that we receive in our public schools here. So that instruction is coming from the Vatican. And I promise you, if you line up 10 elementary school teachers and tell them that they won't even know. They won't know anything about that. No, it comes from the Department of Ed, the superintendent, they don't know. So, yeah, that's what you're speaking about is when you try to convince a Babylonian or something. I'm not trying to convince a Babylonian. Take it or leave it alone. Period. Because what I'm going to utilize to convince you is Babylonian source. And it just takes us down a maze of further and deeper confusion. You see, even if I cite an author or I cite a book, do I also have to tell you that, well, some of that is off, though? Right? Like right now, you're citing Leviticus, you're citing scripture, but there's off things in the Bible. True. Right? So even when you cite, someone could say, well, then, okay, then someone might be this misled to just wholly take on whatever it is that you reference. And that could be dangerous without, again, oversight in the community. So even within the community, when I say something like, well, yeah, there's off stuff in the Bible, there's tricks. The Bible is like, especially the first couple of books, it's like a big, long rhyme scheme. It's like a battle. You know what I mean? Because
you know what? You're right, because it's like stuff repeated upon repetition, and it's like, well, it says it different over here, but which one is it? And then you end up pulling your hair out.
It's a phrase that a battle rapper was like, oh, so the Sumerians, they started this off, and then the Assyrians was like, well, we got something to say too. And then the Akkadians was like, don't forget about us. And the Babylonians, what about us? You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to diss all of them. I'm going to do my own story, and I'm going to include parts of all of their story in it. But then I'm going to throw my own stuff in the middle of it. You know what I mean? Like, you could tell before whoever they sat down, they was like, hey, yo. Right. I said in the beginning. It's like stuttering and everything like battle rap. So it's like you gotta once you know that within a community, it's fine. It's like, all right, well, don't worry, my elders will make sure I don't stub my toe on that. But outside of that, when you're dealing with, that's why I say even when you're dealing with the Bible, it has one message for non-believers: get saved. That's it. There's no other messages. Everything else is for people who are inside of the kingdom. You know what I mean? So I move in a similar kind of way. If I write a book and there's no bibliography, well, it ain't for those of you who feel like you need a bibliography to believe it. That's that. Don't worry about it. Leave it alone. But for those of you who know, like, well, no, Chief, they might know, oh, Chief, he is studied. He studies a lot, and he's got, literally storage places full of bins of books. He knows what he's talking about. Then I'm cool with what he shares. But if we're not a part of that, community in any sense, then you might not feel that level of safety, and that's fine. It's for those who have ears to hear and eyes to see.
We only want the special ones.
Exactly, the special ones you need a hint. You only drop a hint, like what my uncle said, 14 keys. Now there's so many hints in that, and I'm only going to share one little one because I don't want to give away too much of my personal business. But where I was dropping him that day, for him to get to his apartment, I walked him up because we were drumming. So I was like, oh, I'm going. There's 14 steps to his apartment door. I got this weird Rain Man thing where I'm always counting my steps when I'm walking. It's just a weird thing I do. I'm walking up the steps because we didn't take the elevator, and it was literally 14 steps going to. I was like, all right, that's it. I'm gonna write that book. And that was years ago. That was years before I wrote. So if you're in tune with, and there's more 14s, but again, that personal business. But the point I'm saying is that if you're in tune with the vibe, you're in tune with divinity, then that your confirmation comes. Sometimes your confirmation comes in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes a dream is more powerful than the bibliography. Sometimes it's a conversation you have with someone. Sometimes it's a number you'll see because you're tuned into that environment, and that's when you're inside of the holies of the holies. That's what we were talking about earlier. Mm-hmm. You know, but when you're functioning outside of the tent because you're functioning with pride, the first thing you're gonna say is, "I want to see it here." You're not gonna say, "We been in this."
Mm-hmm.
Because who's the we? Me and my elders and my ancestors. We've been at this. So for me to share this is only really uplifting and upholding what was given and what was bestowed and what was gifted to me. That's it.
Yeah. Good thing. I thought I was the only one that counted steps. I was like, what's wrong with me? Why am I counting?
Well, yours might be a little different. You might need to go get yourself checked out.
You count because you got to shake like 1, 2.
I do count. Yes. Like, okay, how many steps today? How many steps did we do today? Yeah. Get them steps in.
You know what? I started doing it as a child because I've always been into survivalism and preparation. And I used to walk around the house with my eyes closed all the time because as a child, I'd be like, well, what if one day, something happens and there's no power and there's no lights and I have to try to get around the house and I can't see anything. Now, of course, there's still sunlight, but when you're a child, you think like that. And there's candles and stuff. But so I literally started doing that when I was like 6, 7 years old, just walking around like I was blind. And then I would do it outside. I would try to go to the bus stop, see how far I could go to the bus stop, which was dangerous, but see how far I could go to the bus stop with my eyes closed. And in order to do it, I'd have to count how many steps to the bus stop, or when you're walking up steps, how many steps, and it just never kind of left me, But it started with survivalism.
Peace. I used to do the same thing when I was younger, but it was because the power was always out. So I used to be feeling everything. I could actually navigate all the houses I used to live in without looking. Also because I always used to be up late at night, and if I turn on the light, someone's gonna wake up. That was another thing.
That's that lurker. That's that lurker preparation.
Lurker. You gotta chloroform something.
Right, exactly.
I was thinking, as everyone was speaking, about Thomas. After Yahushua, rose again, and he was like, "I need some proof, bro." He was walking, talking. You were saying, "Dude, I just saw it die. Show me your hands. Show me the proof." And sometimes that separates us from. It's weird too. I guess it's one of those contextual sort of things where sometimes you say, "I want to see proof," because I don't believe you. You may even get a message like, "You should do this." It's like, I don't believe you. I don't think I can do it, so I'm not going to do it. And other times it's like, "Oh, why don't you come over here and join us?" And it's like, "Okay, what do you do over there?" And you could be wrong on both occasions based on what point of reference you're coming from, but you could also be right on both occasions based on your point of reference. So I guess it's sort of a question. Does it always depend on your point of reference when you're looking at these things, or should it always be like a level of skepticism going into something? Like that always used to bug me. Like sometimes I'm skeptical and I was dead wrong, and sometimes I'm skeptical and I avoid something and I don't even know how it added up to
being right.
Well, I think, you know, it depends on your approach. I'm sorry for all this breathing. I'm actually working out while the show is going on.
You going upstairs? Count steps?
I was trying to hold my breath so y'all couldn't hear it. I tried to hold my breath. I was like, Mom, just kind of on, just tell me. Yeah, exactly. We'll be getting money. So I would say, if you're approaching your life from a philosophical perspective, then skepticism is perfectly healthy, because you have to ask yourself, what is that skepticism? What does it motivate you to do? So I would say that skepticism should motivate us to engage in the scientific process. And we can approach everything in our life from a scientific perspective, right? So even if I say something to you, you could be skeptical about it. I mean, I encourage skepticism. But what happens is that through the scientific method, you have to, the beauty of science, or when it's done right, the scientific method is that you should be able to reproduce my results. So if you're skeptical about what I'm saying, then you go, now that you got the knowledge, now you go perform the wisdom.
Go do it.
You know, and let's see what results. We should, if what I'm saying is right in exact science, we should have the same result. If it's not, then chances are I was just giving you some fantasy. You know, so no matter what, your approach of skepticism is still going to yield a healthy result.
Yeah.
If I take this powder, and then
if I went into the lion's den, what I be doing? Some things I'm not scared. Sometimes I'll take your word. I don't need, you know, somebody tells me they were delivered from some type of sexual practice. I'm good.
I've been delivered. I like wings.
I believe you.
you know, some things I can't say without a question. My old mom was telling me, talking the other day, I was telling him I get up early to run. And he was like, yeah, sometimes I used to get up early too, but sometimes I go a little too early. One time I was walking along the beach and I saw this figure in the distance, and all of a sudden it disappeared. But when I turned around, it was behind me. So, yeah, that's the last time I went.
I got the agenda for sure.
I was out during the witching hours. I can't do that no more.
You know, I thought of the idea of like I think it says in the other way, like empirical evidence, like, so what's observed and what's seen, like that's how we have to like love one another. And I think it is in the chapter that talks about allegiance, like we have to be that dedicated to one another. And so like then it made me think, like, if you are replicating a formula, like, so as a woman, if I'm given the knowledge and I have to go do, and it doesn't come out like it was, it's like, well, did I really, I have to go back and say, did I really do it the way it was given? Or did I have a slight variation somewhere because I want to maintain that skepticism and then come back and be like, well, it didn't work, see? And like, not how does it happen, but acknowledging like when it happens and why. You know, and if that's because that's that devilish behavior and Babylon creeping in, because it's like, you know, what, that pride is still there and there's no humility.
I'm sorry, but you.
I'm sorry, I am done.
Well, I was gonna say sometimes the Babylonian thought happens before you even engage in the task, because you might be told to do something and you don't do it, or you pause instructions. I'll wait for you to tell me how to do it. And that's because you don't want to be responsible for possibly doing it wrong. You know.
Say that again.
You know. But yeah, man, like, you know, a woman is an operational manager. If you see the family as a corporation, a woman is over operations, and operations are your day-to-day tasks. And she's given a strategy. She's given a strategic plan. This is what we want to get done. Now, sometimes there may be explicit directions, do this, do that, do that. But the reality is, if you have a man who's running a corporation, he doesn't have time or the energy or the patience to show you exactly how to do everything. So if you do something wrong, that's not a reason for you to stop. You know, that's a reason for you to pull back on the knowledge that you've been given and the wisdom on how to do things and maybe do it again. Well, let me try it this way. Let me try it that way. You know, because that's when you really are functioning as a woman inside of the space, and you really are, now you can be entrusted to be truly a manager. You know, so a lot of that occurs before you even do the task. Sometimes the task isn't done, and that's a slick thing. You know, because people don't, well, I didn't want to mess it up, or so I just let it sit here. And you know, I don't know, it's a whole kind of collective corporate vision that everyone has to have in terms of obedience in that sense. You know, even down to this, right? The sisters talk about obeying and listening to their heads a lot. That's because they don't obey and listen to their heads. That's why they talk about it so much. Because it's so foreign to them. And if the man is the head, the woman is the body. If the body's not listening to the brain, what the heck do you have there? Other than something that's diseased. You know, and eventually you would hope that the disease doesn't spread to the brain, but it might. You know, so you'd be better off cutting off your arm or cutting off your foot if it's not doing what it's supposed to do, if it's not following your instruction. You know, because it will infect the rest of the body, it will spread. You know, so some of these things, it's like it's a deeper and stronger lesson that I know some women run away from. Well, I can't even say women, because a real woman doesn't behave this way. This is silly female Babylonian thought. You know, where I'm trying to learn how to listen. You know, you got women who are old. They're old women still talking about they're trying to learn how to be obedient. You know, in all your years, you haven't figured out how to be your counterpart, how to even be around your counterpart. You know what I mean? So I think there's so many deeper levels and lessons to pay attention to in that. You know, when you again talk about holy and unholy, because for me as a man, understanding that I'm the son of my system, in order to be within my holy space, you have to be humble and you have to function in your proper orbit. But if you're not orbiting at this proper angulation, you know, in relationship to me that you're supposed to, then I'm going to send you to the outer reaches of the galaxy where you will get no light or very little light, or the light that you will get will be reflected off of other women, off of the other planets. You won't get source light. You know, so I don't think that should be a negotiable at this point. And I feel like sometimes for some sisters it still is a negotiable, and that's why those sisters will never have a man, ever. You'll be single forever. You keep crying, you know, I want a mate, and when I get it, you won't get a mate, because nobody is gonna deal with that stupidity. You know, just like you wouldn't deal with the body part that's not acting right. I mean, women cut off their split ends. You don't even deal with hair that don't act right. You know, so how do you think you would be treated by something that's trying to grow and evolve from the root? It's gonna cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
That made me think of I've seen it a lot with single women who try to get around women with mates, and it's a weird thing. I've seen it from a distance, and I didn't understand what was happening, and I get a little closer, and it's like, wait a minute, you trying to steal light from the sister who has a mate, but then you're rebelling against the light that you receive from
instead of getting your own mate. You know, you can't keep a mate because you always rebelling against them. So now you're trying to steal some lessons off of someone on the slide while still enacting that Jezebel spirit.
Yeah, I mean that's common in that scenario. It's also common in scenarios when you're running an organization and people would rather just listen and not join. You know, it's the same thing. Knowing that now I heard them say that every woman has to be covered. I don't want no man in my business and this and that, and you know, but you still want to come and get the gems. And I'm glad you used the term Jezebel, Master Menelec, because it's important to understand that spirit is a spirit. So a man could be a Jezebel, a woman could be a Jezebel, either one, you know. But it's a certain spirit that sends to that people sometimes are often shrouded in, and it is that hatred and that disrespect. And the more we can see it as being vile, the less we'll do it. You know, like Sister Yaffe talks about, like, did I pay attention to the directions? Well, if the body of Christ is the church, and the church is redeemed through Christ and through the instructions and the lessons of Christ, then it would stand to reason in that same passage that the woman is like the church body, and the man is like Christ. So if you're given instructions and you don't listen, then what is that relationship really? Because that relationship is always going to be reflective of the relationship that you have with God. It's going to be the same exact thing. If you don't listen to your man, you ain't listening to Christ either. If Christ is what you're aiming for. Now, I know Christ is not what a lot of people are aiming for because they don't want that responsibility. So they'll say, well, no, I ain't into that. I do voodoo. Or I do hoodoo. Or I pray to my ancestors. I got an altar set up over here. I got elecades, and I rub my elecades together until answers come to me. Right. Because you don't want that dynamic. So that dynamic provides you distinct information. You know, I was speaking to a Babylon friend of mine recently, and we were talking, he's a Muslim, and we were talking about that, and he was saying, you know, how he was referring to how similar he and I are, like in terms of our code. Because and funny enough, we were talking about women, because we were talking about how our women cover. And he was like, yeah, you know, you may not call it hijab, but he's like, basically our women look the same. That's what he was saying, like in terms of how they value themselves and respect themselves and don't let the entire world view upon something that's precious. And one of the things I was saying is that what we don't get by way of Ifa is a code. We don't get the code of conduct. You know, we get some excellent things in other areas, but we don't get that what we should do every day, this and that, and how we marry, how we eat, how we dress, so forth and so on, right? A lot of it is left up to interpretation, you know. So that's what a lot of people run from, you know, in terms of what you're describing. So if I sit outside, if I'm a female and I have a married friend and I'm soaking up light there, but I don't really have to be, I can turn around and tell her or her husband all the time, I'm a grown woman, I ain't got no husband. I ain't got to listen to you. But then when my car breaks down or I want to change jobs or something, I'll creep back over for some more gain. Those are people who need to be cast into a river, a raging river. Just throw them in the river. Be done with them. You know, because their spirit and their energy is so wicked, you wouldn't even want to have a baby placed inside of the womb of a person like that. They're just wicked. Just throw them in the river. And that's Chucky. Yeah, exactly. That's what they're raising up. Chucky seeds. Because that's rebellion against the heaven. The heaven. So what kind of child are you going to produce? And of course, we know you're not going to really be implanted with the seed of a powerful man, because a powerful real man wouldn't want anything to do with you. So you're gonna reproduce a bum in the community, somebody who's got enough time to lay around and sex you until they get you pregnant. Then you'll send them back on their way. So you're just producing garbage and dropping it in the middle of the community.
I was thinking like, and in that same vein, because I remember once, um, I had a married friend, and you told me like you shouldn't have even been able, you shouldn't have even said anything. Like she was asking me questions, not asking questions, but like revealing things that was going on in her marriage. And at the time, I was like, in my head, and I'm thinking like, I'm supposed to offer words of encouragement and like, maybe a solution. And you were like, you shouldn't have said nothing, and it's true because it's like I'm not married. This is your household. This is your mate. Like, you shouldn't even be saying anything to me. Maybe go to elder women that are in your community or in your family, and elder women who are also mated and married. And that's where you ask for your, advice or whatever, but not to the one that does not have a mate. Like that's imbalance. Like that's not even what should happen. And like even for me to offer any advice, like that's wicked. That's at me operating outside of my function. What I should be doing is trying to find a mate on my own, of my own. And then I was thinking like how often that happens in women's circle of females, where females move, and there's conversations that are had amongst married versus unmarried where there shouldn't even be that level of conversation because you're not moving in the same space, let alone even in the same culture. So like even when you're moving with somebody, like maybe they're married, but if they're not in your culture, like even those kind of conversations, I'm like, should they happen? Or they shouldn't, and maybe they shouldn't even happen at all.
Is this the friend who has a son?
No, this is another one. She has 2 daughters and a husband. The one with the son, their husband died.
Right. I didn't want to say that because that might give away what we're talking about. Okay. I don't even remember this. I mean, for the most part, most of your friends are dodo birds, so I pretty much just put them all in the same nest for the most part. But see, that's where it begins, right? Like, why am I even friends with this person? These are the questions you ask, because if someone is brazen enough to violate the sanctity of their marriage, why would I be friends with someone like that? Why did this person not think about that first? Like, I shouldn't share this with her. It's not appropriate. She doesn't have the wisdom for me in this particular area. So that's some dodo bird stuff. You know what I mean? So we're at a time, and I know everyone's probably gonna get turned off by all this, but I don't care. But we're at a time of separation and sanctification at this point. You know what I mean? And we should be encouraging each other towards our best and highest self, not towards some foolishness. And we know when we're wrapped up in foolishness, we know. But if you have people who you're acquainted with, who are not bringing you to a place where you can enter into the Holy of Holies and you can have a conversation with these otherworldly beings who created you, then what is the point of that relationship? There is no point whatsoever other than to give you something that you have to battle against and get advice about and burn up time and energy when you could be doing something else. You ever like meet with somebody to go work out and they start telling you about a problem in their life, and you look at your watch, you 30 minutes into the workout, ain't did nothing yet, ain't broke a sweat, ain't warmed up nothing, because they just sitting here whining and complaining about something that you ain't even with. I've had this experience, man, working out with dudes after the first day, talking about their funky job. I don't care nothing about your job. You're a bullshit, and then, I'm out from ready to, man, I'm supposed to be working out, man. I only got an hour here, I gotta leave. You see? That's exactly, you know what I'm talking about. So you understand? See, that's what I'm saying. So it's like the same thing when you have this association with these dodo birds. You end up exploring concepts and topics that are so beneath where you're striving to be, instead of them pushing you to a better place and you pushing each other to a better place. How many of these girlfriends that a lot of sisters have will say, hey, I notice you ain't got no mate. Why don't you join my family? The love ain't that real.
Oh, right? No. So, that's never that.
We can friends.
Yeah.
Right, we ain't friends. We can't be friends. If you could see me, and I'm not a female, so So I'm just saying, but you would see me out here in the cold and not realize that even when you come to me with your marital issues and your issues with your children, if I'm husbandless and childless, that might sting a little bit. Just a little bit. It might. Maybe that's a problem I want. You know, I had to go to the school and talk to my son's teacher. Maybe I wish I was upset with my son's teacher and, you know, mad because my husband gave me a whack anniversary gift. You see what I'm saying? So are you even thinking about that, or are you a freaking dodo bird? So that's what I'm saying. Like, I know within our community, these are things that we discuss. You know, I mean, these are concerns that we have. You know, is my brother safe? Is my brother good? You know, is my sister safe? Is she good? How's she feeling? Hey, I heard this happened recently. You okay? You know, that checking on and pulling people, even checking each other. No, I shouldn't have did that. No, that wasn't right. You know, hey, our new way says this. You know, let me tell you. You know, but those different things like that, where we're checking each other and bringing up each other to a higher place, it should be only that. Nothing else. We shouldn't even have any room in our lives for anything else. You see, because that's when you get back into that pride that you were talking about earlier with the whole, I know I'm doing something wrong. Like, I don't want to say my head gave me this idea. I don't want to say my head corrected me on this. I don't want to say I have. There's a guy who tells me what to do. I don't want to say that publicly. Or I saw a rug that would be perfect for my floor, but
I'm gonna ask if I can get it.
I gotta ask if I can buy this rug. And sometimes he says no. He doesn't always say yes. So it's not just a formality. Sometimes he'll be like, nah, because you didn't do this and do that. So do this and do that, and then the rug will be your reward. You know, so I don't want to say that out loud. Right? So it goes back to the same thing. But if you say that within our community, it makes sense to all of us. Yes, sis, that does make sense, because you remember last strong when we were talking and you said you're terrible with money? So yeah, you know, terrible. You're just terrible with money.
Terrible. Like, it just slips through my fingers. I don't know where it goes.
Hey, I told you this before, and let me tell you something, man. When women get money, especially when they get money together, they act like they're a part of Mexican drug cartel. They be spinning like pop. You know what I'm saying?
Make it rain.
That's why they do that little game where they go out to eat and they take all their credit cards and shuffle them together, and you know who's gonna pay. They play little rich people money games like that. But they be spending like drug dealers. They go and they order the most expensive desserts, the most expensive bottle of wine. They eat half their food and then be wanting something else. Ooh, I want some of those shrimp. Ooh, I want some more cake. They spend like drug cartel. I'm telling you.
I ain't played the credit card game yet. I'll be honest.
But let's do this way. You ain't played the credit card game. Watch this, everybody. Watch this. How many credit cards do you have?
Oh, one now. One. I think. Yeah.
Right,
One.
exactly. I think, you see this? This is what I'm saying. So that some of those games are not even applicable to us. We can't play credit card games because we don't play with credit. You know what I mean? So we can play the crypto game. We can play the stocks game. We got those. You see, but we can't play credit card games with you and stuff like that, and then not know how much is on our limit. And, you know, so this is what I'm saying. A lot of times, and I'm afraid to say anything, or not that you said it, but that.
It went a little dark. I think I missed the last part of what you said, Chief. It just went silent, but I know you were still going.
Reality should have. Yeah, they shouldn't be high priority if when you get together, y'all don't have any conversations about spiritual elevation and ascension. That's not some made up stuff. I had this dream, my ancestor came to me, and it is always a confirmation for something stupid you want to do. Yeah, my ancestors came to me, told me I need to have another baby, you know, something dumb got something stupid like this. So I'm making a distinction for people listening who think like, yeah, I talked to my friend Charlene like that. You know, if Charlene is not trying to get you, or you're getting each other, it shouldn't be a one-way thing. But you two have established a religion between you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just like a marriage. I tell you, it should be a religion. And what is a religion? Something that binds you back to your creator. It binds you back to your purest and most natural divine self. A real religion. So your friendship should be religions. Your spouse, your marriages should be religions. Your relationship with your children should be a religion. Everything you touch and do should cause you to ascend. Everything. Even your job.
Girl, you know Mercury's in retro.
You know, I don't even. Yes, I don't even know. There's nothing else to say after that. Yes, this is true. I'm channeling Achoti right here. This is true. Because you know what? When you pull away and you don't, when you show like, no, I'm doing this because this is what's more important, because as you said, like our transcendence is always at stake. That's when you get and I think you said this, I hope that and this has happened to me, I hope that you're, doing this for yourself, and that you don't lose who you are. And I was like, what is that supposed to mean? What is that supposed to mean? And what is that supposed to bring me back to? Like, what have I lost? And if I have lost something, it's that it's separating from the common to move toward the divine. Like, yeah, because I wanna get out of here. I want to get out of here. I don't want to stay down in the dumps. And I'm not saying like not be humble, but I don't want to be where the common is, the profane is. I want to be in places of like elevation.
Well, it's like this too. Oh, you was on mute. Go ahead, man. I got to catch my breath.
What you just said though made me think of the one, I don't remember the name of the show, but it was just talking about how many people say, you gotta love yourself. And loving yourself begins to look like self-care, where now all of a sudden one, goes out and gets their nails done, or one will go out and get a haircut, or one goes out, treats themselves to something else and see like, yeah, that's what it's all about, as opposed to actually being connected with their most inner thoughts and their inner emotions, and sitting with those and saying that, and examining, exploring those and saying, where did this come from? How did I let this in? Somebody dropped something off at my front door, and instead of me looking at it and saying, you know what, I don't want this. This is not, I'm going to return this to the sender. I pick it up and I let it in. I bring it in my house, whether that be anger, whether that be a feminine spirit, whether that be, hyper emotional in males. And like G was saying, that Jezebel spirit can jump on anybody, and you let it in. And now, is one actually going to show self-love to explore some of these things, to eradicate some of these things, so that now one can actually have healthy unions and healthy relationships with, sisters and brothers and do these types of things? Or is it always just going to be now playing on the surface of this is what self-love is? Self-love is, quote-unquote, self-care. And if you don't have self-care, then you don't have self-love, as opposed to going deeper, digging deeper, or going to, quote, Zion, nonetheless, or that home base, and saying, nah, you know what, it's time for me to uproot some of these things, so that therefore I can live a more richful and fruitful life, as opposed to just keep saying that I'm fighting these battles, and I keep fighting these demons, and I just feel so heavy, and I'm just so tired. Yeah, well, it's okay to jump off of that treadmill, or that rat race, or that hamster wheel, that one just keeps getting on. Then you come and you find some information that fills you up just enough so you can go back and doing what you're doing. And the next thing you know, in 3 months again, Mercury back in retrograde again. So that's why you feel the way you feel. Well, that's why it is the way it is. But it's like, you're going to have to go deeper. You're going to have to do the digging. You're going to have to do the work, which means that therefore you're going to have to face yourself.
to Sister Yaffe, right? So if you wanted to buy, let's say, a head wrap that you think would look pretty on you, would you ask me what head wrap you think that you should get?
This is a trick question. No. I would.
Right.
No.
You would get the head wrap. Or if you wanted to buy certain kinds of sheets for your bed because, you're a woman and you want to feel something soft on your skin or whatever goofy thing, would you ask me?
No.
Right. Because the assumption, and you're probably correct, is I don't know that much about it. Now, I know sometimes, and this is all y'all sisters and I know, sometimes y'all put on certain wraps, it don't be hitting. You know what I mean? But as a man, you're not allowed to say it. Yeah, they know. But we just be like, nah, well, at least she being righteous.
We're gonna have a power outage at the house. That's what
Exactly what the heck she got on. I'll be saying, when I say it to the house, I'll be like, yeah, that's crooked, man. Fix that. The tag is showing. That's a t-shirt. I say so. But the ultimate point is that it's already assumed that I'm probably not that versed in that. I have my own thing that I'm good at, right? So it's the same thing if a sister says to me, or a brother, but mainly a sister, oh, will you make sure you don't lose yourself? My initial mental response is probably, why don't you shut the F up? Because you're not that smart. Shut up. This is not your area. But we live in a society where you're taught that everything is your area. Anywhere you go, you're going to be the expert. All right, well, how y'all do? Well, let me tell you how you're supposed to do. You don't know. Shut up. So it's and I know that may sound harsh to people, and that's because a lot of folks, unfortunately, are so used to listening to a matriarchal voice that they will only accept information that comes from a woman. They will only accept guidance or something that comes from a female voice. They don't listen to that at all. I have guys I know like that. They're constantly reposting videos all the time of females breaking things down. Never repost any videos of any guys. And if they do, the guys are always offended. Because they're not used to having a father who was giving them information and things like that. So you can't tell me nothing like that. If a man is telling me, if I have a man's voice and a man's guidance in my life, that I don't need the woman's guidance. Bottom line, I don't need it. There was a time I did need it, and I valued it. My mother is a very wise woman. Very, very witty, very funny, but just she can break people's behavior down super quick. When something is off, or, well, okay, well, you see that? The reason that happened is this kind of person, and and they're just looking to do, she's good at that. I can't remember the last time I got any of that. I came up with my father, I didn't need it. But I got a lot of it from my father. And it's not to say that my mother would say, oh, shut up, it's nothing like that. But she understood, he's good. He's got his father, he's got his uncle, he's got his grandparents. He's all right. I'm going to do something else over here. I'm going to take him to a play. I'm going to take him to go get sushi and show him how to use chopsticks. My father didn't show me he could. My father, he had big hands like cinder blocks. He probably couldn't even break the chopsticks as soon as he touched them. But my mother taught me how to use chopsticks, how to fold a napkin properly. You don't have to always put it in your shirt, sweetheart. Things like that. But things that my father wouldn't have even, I think to the day my father died, he was still putting napkins in his collar. Now I think about it. I've never seen him put a napkin on his lap. Ever. He was still getting chicken and stuffing the napkin up into his diet. So this is what I'm saying, that the beauty and the acknowledgement is that we have to recognize that Babylon got hold of our people, and it's got things flipped upside down. You ask a guy for some guidance, half the time they shrug their shoulders and say, I don't know, whatever you feel like doing. But the females got all the advice and guidance in the world. And that's it, things being flipped upside down. She's least qualified to give guidance. And the ones that always say, well, make sure you don't lose yourself. And like you said, what does that even mean? What are you talking about? What does it mean to not lose yourself? Well, make sure you remember who you are and the good things about you. You can shut that F up. Because I can come in 3 minutes and dismantle that whole statement. In 3 minutes. And I can promise you a female like that is not going to be like, wow, I didn't look at it that way. Thank you. I promise you they'll hate me as a result. They'll make up something. Oh, well, you know what? He's the type of guy that he's a know-it-all. Or he's the type of guy that just wants to dominate people or control people. That's why he didn't listen to what I was saying. No, I didn't listen because what you were saying was stupid. Right? So you wouldn't be stupid if you stayed in your lane, though. And that's the thing. Our roles have been so perverted and distorted, we don't even know our lanes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And when, you know, and this society doesn't accommodate your lane. You know, if I had a disagreement with a brother and I knew we couldn't resolve it peaceably, which I couldn't imagine, but let's just say, and I said, okay, well, let's go outside, put on some boxing gloves, and let's punch it out. We could get arrested for that.
Mm-hmm.
Even after explaining what we're doing. Oh, no. It's fine, officer. It's my brother. We just had a disagreement, and we decided your brother's over there bleeding. Sir, put your hands behind your back. You see, so this society doesn't accommodate my masculinity. And I'm not saying masculinity is equated to violence, but I'm using that as an example. But this society doesn't accommodate your femininity unless it's in a distorted way. If you said, I want to focus on reflecting the goodness and the light of this man, manage his household, and raise his children properly, this society doesn't respect the value in that. So if you say that and try to do that, you're going to be ridiculed by your sister friends.
Yeah.
Because that's you losing yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know, and it made. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, or the fact that, just one last thing, most of us were not even prepared for our roles. So it ends up being a distorted thing. You'll have women who might say they want to do that, but they don't know how to cook. They don't know how to manage finances. They don't know anything about health and wellness. They don't know how to homeschool. You know, they don't know how to keep a properly functioning engine. They don't know how to hire contractors to do things. They don't know how to take the home property and expand that into a business, which is a form of stewardship and management. You know, I mean, we can just go on and on and on and on and on. And I'm not saying because women inherently don't know these things. I'm not saying that. I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying because in this society, they're trained out of those natural gifts. Mm-hmm. You see? So even if they have the inkling, which is so sad, later on in life, that they want to do that which is natural and normal, they don't even know how to do it. They just have that burning desire, which turns into resentment and frustration later.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I was going to add like not idea, but like, you know, not wanting or wanting to speak against a woman or female wanting to become a woman, right? And go back into what's Kodesh, what's holy, and function within her nature. It's like, it's the worst thing that you could do. And it's like, you're stupid. And I think we had this discussion on when we used to do the fifth Sabbath presentations or something. And I think one of the brothers asked about like the pick-me. It's like, then you get called all types of names. I've been called those names. But then it dawned on me, but you'll sit and allow someone who is moving against nature and defend and say, well, you love who you love. Well, then why is that not the same for the woman who wants to move in a righteous household or properly and with nature, with the flow of the grain of the universe? Why is that the wrong thing? And I'm sure I know the answer. It's like the opposite. It's that flipping things on its head.
But it's only flipping it for you. Because one thing, and it's an important thing I wish women would talk about amongst themselves a bit more. Because females are the ones who support all that perversion. Yeah. We ain't with
Why is that the
Right.
name? Why is that the name?
They always name Twan. Because they like that maybe it's an honest thing, it's a spiritual thing. Because even they always take, even if it ain't got an on, they could be named like Devin,
Oh,
Kevin,
God.
Kevon.
Trying to sound French.
Yeah, it could be that. You know what I mean? But they always slap that on up the on. You know what I mean? On girl. So the thing I'm saying is like, but it's only targeted when with women. Like you're ridiculed out of being a woman overtly and secretly.
Mm-hmm.
I am abused and badgered when I try to be a man overtly, but I can do it secretly. Right? So to give you an example, I can join the military
Mm-hmm.
and I can learn all the discipline that I want or the organizational. I mean, of course, if I'm in the military, I got another man telling me what to do all day. So that's just usually weak-minded kind of dudes. They love the military, right? And I'm not dissing anybody who's ever joined the military. We all make mistakes in life. But the point I'm saying is that, you know, the ones who love it, is they like to be told what to do. But the thing is, you're in that environment, just like dudes who love prison. Yeah, because you ain't got to worry about rent. You know, you just do what you do. You got the same program every day. Somebody's feeding you, clothing you, housing you. Boom. You know. So, and again, maybe not popular opinions, but I don't care. So, with being a man, I could go separate myself from society completely and go explore what that looks like. Whether I go live in the middle of the woods, whether I join the police force, whether I even get into sports, which again is another form of slavery. But you know, on some levels, I can quietly develop my masculinity and my manhood. It's attacked when I do it overtly. You know, when I stand tall, when I want to raise my children properly. You know, even what they call man spreading. When I sit in a chair and I don't cross my legs. You know, things like that. You know, now imagine in society if a man was to tell a woman how she's supposed to sit. Imagine how much fervor these communities would rise up against that one individual, right? But that's not here or there. But for a female, whether you quietly or loudly attempt to really explore and cultivate your femininity, you're going to be ridiculed out. Like there's no place to do that or to be that in a healthy way. Because I can get around men on a police force or men in the military or men in sports or whatever, chopping wood in the middle of Canada somewhere, bringing trees down, you know, and living in out of trailers. And I can explore some of the philosophies and the emotions and the actions of being a man. You know, I can raise a family even outside of this country and explore that. But as a female, where do you go when you want to cultivate femininity and not be ridiculed? There's no place you can do it silently. There's no place you can do it overtly. Yeah, there's no place unless you convert religions and you cover up. And even then it gets funny sometimes too because you got feminists inside of those environments too.
There's no place. There's no place to go.
I thought you was gonna come with a solution being a female. I guess not. I guess it's a wrap.
But no. Well, I think the solution is when we do cut off the way to the common, and we only be around those who are like us, who are upholding the same culture, because then those women will be we will have a space to overtly, and I do have a space to overtly share our femininity and culture in the way that we've chosen to live out, you know, the rest of this existence. And I don't know.
What happens when you go to work?
You get fired.
Okay, so how will you sustain yourself?
We have to be entrepreneurs. So that's like,
But
act
even as an entrepreneur, you still have to interact with the world. That's the whole point. You want the world's money. Leave me alone. Give me your money. What kind of slogan? That's never been anybody's slogan on a billboard. Don't come in this office. Just drop the money.
drop the money. Put the money on the porch. Drive off.
Drive off. That ain't gonna work.
Put the money in a bag. I don't know. Oh,
So how do you, right?
I don't know. Well, this is why we have coverings. Like, we're not supposed to.
You said you don't really be listening to the covering. So why
I
would
did
the
say
covering?
that. I did.
Mm-hmm. Why would the covering be like, you know what? You could be my sugar baby.
I did say that.
Because that's ultimately what, you know, that's ultimately the opportunity that most sisters messed up on when they were younger, listening to older women. You could have been a sugar baby. But your dumb behind was listening to these other fools, and now I'm gonna go work on my career and this and that and that.
Yeah.
That man said he want to take care of me, but what if he stops one day and leaves me high and dry? I gotta have my own.
Mm-hmm.
You see, so now you can't be a sugar baby no more.
No.
It's y'all. Some of y'all are saber tools now.
I had those teeth removed.
Okay, well, might be a cougar. You see what I'm saying? So I mean, I just think it's something important for women to explore because it's a really deep thing. Like, can I sustain this culture of femininity? You know, at home or abroad, as you know, said with the MGT and the GCC. You know, act accordingly at home and abroad. That's Nation of Islam.
I was
Muslim
like,
girls
what?
training. Yeah, when you go through Muslim girls training, that's MGT or GCC, General Civilizations class, you're told to always act accordingly at home and abroad.
Mm.
You see, so there's never a moment where it's like, well, I'm not going to be feminine because I'm not around my community.
Right.
Now, just
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, like, you can't even, the conversation, it can't happen amongst cross cultures because it doesn't matter. Like, the mind has been set, the Babylonian mind has been set that that's wrong. You should be, the future is female, and you should, if you speak against anything that, females do, man or woman, you're against everything else. So those conversations can only be had with like other women who are in the community. But then I'm like, but does it become circular if we're all agreeing? Like we've come to that point where it's like we agree, like, no, we should have this space to be free in our emotions. And also talk about, like, how it is women that perpetuate the going against natural order and keep it sustained and put it on a pedestal, and which puts us in situations where we females die when they're out of the country, when they on vacation with friends, so to speak. There are plenty of males around, but none of them, it doesn't seem like any of them were flowing with the natural order. So, like, yeah, you're right. It's just where the femininity and the real woman is under attack. I think I saw you on mute, Master Manuel.
I was just thinking, because I have seen women complain about that same dilemma, where they're surrounded by that same Jezebel spirit. They're surrounded by women who don't really respect femininity. Everyone around them is basically saying you should be single and lose the man until you don't need a man until you need a man. It's like the message that they get. But they don't know what need means. They think need is until you want to necessarily need to be around a man. There are women who, from a young age, they actually want husbands and they want headship, but they don't know where to find it, and they don't know where to find a place where that's like normalized or accepted in a healthy way. Is there like any place at all that does that? I might not know. But, is there any place at all where femininity in a healthy way is celebrated?
I think the Apostolic Church. Yeah, I think the Apostolic Church and certain Islamic sects, and even inside of certain Mormon communities, or if you just, I think there's still places there where family is encouraged and women are proud to be a part of families. I'm using the word proud for a reason. And to have children and to, but those environments, they are their home. So you go to places like, sorry, I'm catching my breath again. You go to places like certain parts of Kansas, Utah, Oklahoma, where everything is geared. Even you go to Walmart in Oklahoma, the men's clothes be like 5X, 4X, because these are all big giant barbecuing Midwestern, guys. Everybody's living the same culture. We go to church, we barbecue, we go hunt. That's it. So inside of those environments, they're able to create this close community where they found their own slice of heaven. So they're not trying to achieve outside of where they are to escape. I think anywhere where you find that, you will find men who are content in being men and women who are content.
That's what's up. Thanks for that. I was genuinely curious about that. I often see the rejection of femininity. Like it's not cool. It's almost like you're around a bunch of brothers who like fighting, and you want to show them your bug collection. They might be interested, but chances are they're more interested in like which one of the bugs is the most violent, which one of them can kill, which bug is the strongest.
Yeah. I mean, I was also going to say, I knew it was a space like that. We want, we're in our way, in our tone, women should be free in their emotions. This is the space where we're encouraged to be women and men encouraged to be men.
Even with that, there's still hesitancy to be free. There's still hesitancy to even explore the vastness of your masculinity, because the Babylonian mind is hard to scrub off.
Hard to scrub.
Like Chief had often said, like it's really hard to for some people to let go. Like the Matrix.
Yeah.
It's the same deal. You wake up out of a certain level of psychological damage or psyops has been run on you, and your mind has trouble letting go.
Yeah.
Or even with the idea that Chief just brought up, that the mind is just gonna up and abandon you out of nowhere with absolutely no reason at all. Even that is like a fallacy. And even if he does, like you've chosen. So it's like, are you distrusting men, or are you distrusting your own judgment, or do you just want to be rebellious and justify it as something that people normally use to justify their rebellion? And then when you wind up where those people wind up, you want to know why nobody loves you.
Right.
I also would like to add that it almost seems as though people they don't want freedom. They want liberation. And when you just brought up a piece in the movie, And let's stay there for a
We
second.
needed a refresher. We said Neo 3 times. We needed a refresher. We needed you to come back.
I like where you're going, so let's go. But he was like, we're jumping from one building to the other. It's like, you got to clear your mind. Can one clear their mind? And they're not looking to clear their mind. They're just looking to be liberated. So you're telling me I can't do this? Well, then I'm going to do it. You telling me I can't do it? I'm not, and not necessarily looking for a culture that's going to house them and say, okay, I'm free to do anything inside of this culture. Let's do it, right? I'm not interested in any of that. I just, anything that you tell me I can't do, I want to do it. Even though I don't want the responsibilities that come behind what I'm looking to do. So now all of a sudden with somebody, even in the sense of coming into our new, and one of the things is like, we have that we have that, but there's a lot of responsibility that comes with that too. So now if you start talking about, being a man, you telling me I got to do all of this? Oh, no. Hey, you telling me I got to put a LinkedIn page together? That's a lot of work, man. Like, geez, I don't really have much. And that's all you asking somebody to do. But if you're not able to do the basic of tasks, then what are we talking about? We're talking about leading and being a master of a homestead. That can't even be a conversation at this point. So it's a matter of people that they just job jack. That's all they do is run their mouth until it's time to actually put in the work, and then that's when you see everybody start to flip the light on, and everybody start running like roaches. I want.
Roaching.
Okay, well then, what are you gonna? Who?
I was like roaching. Hashtag roaching.
Right. I want this, and I want that. I want all of these things. One of the things the chief said, even, and then you go over there. Parades and holding up these signs and saying that you want equality, but the thing that you even holding up on was made by a man. What are we talking about? What are we really talking about here? If you want it, well then you got to go get it. And if you're not willing to do that, well then now you better fall in line.
Yeah.
Quit jaw japping and just running your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta admit that that's not what you really want. You have to come to that admission to saying that, you know what, or even like in one of the segments he said of the easiest things that some of the just do for self. Mm-hmm. I don't want to do for self. I want somebody else to do it, but I'm gonna complain the entire time of why I can't do this and I can't do that. Mm-hmm. You gotta come to that realization and stop BSing everybody.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, like, no, I don't want to do the heavy manual labor that it takes to build, like, that physical, like, and I'm talking about like the practical, like, do I want to, be cleaning up garbage and sewers and like scaling, hundreds of feet into the air to build skyscrapers and, whatever goes into putting cities together. I'll do what I'm supposed to do to help nation build, like not what the men are supposed to do. And it was a hard road to realize, like, equality, no, you do what you're supposed to do. And it's like it would have been better to learn that earlier. And it's like she said, like the preparation to actually learn that wasn't there. But then also I didn't listen, because even if the preparation wasn't there was hints that I just ignored.
Yeah, I don't know if that was just me. Is it just me or is her phone off? That's the Matrix. It sounded like it was shutting it down.
Oh, did you? What was it? Can you hear me now? Can you? Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. What'd you say?
The storm is past now.
They tried to take me down. What was the last thing I was saying? Yeah, I don't.
You were saying that you don't want to be on no battlefield trying to shank someone across on the other field because you're gonna ran out of bullets, or be swimming through sewage like my man Andy Dufresne.
Basically.
A sewage clog. You want equality, but you don't want to do the dirty stuff that men do. But you want to be in the office, you want that office position. And you were saying that anytime you have to ask someone for power, they always gonna pump you.
They always gonna what?
Like being a child and say they always gonna pump you. That's like when you a child and somebody's bullying you and you say, please don't take. You got candy, and you say, please, you can take all the candy, just don't take the red one. Red's my favorite flavor. Don't take that one. So what's the one they're gonna take? So that's what you're basically saying, right? If you have to ask for power, you have to march for power. You opening yourself up to greater abuse. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the plan. Because when people are abused, then new laws are passed. Yeah. Just like when people run up into Walmart and start shooting people, then more laws get passed. Mm-hmm. So maybe people are chipped up. I think you were saying something like that.
Yep. That's exactly what I was saying. Yes. That was exactly it. Yeah. Because it's the idea, like the equality, like we could do just as much as men. I can't. I'm not gonna. No, I really can't. And I think I was part of that. Not even I think I was part of that. Like we could do. No, I can't. And not even I can't. Like I really don't want to. And it's that idea, like no, I want to say that I can, and then just sit up and reap the benefits of what somebody else built, and then have pride in it. Like that's not cool at all.
I think the deepest thing with that too is that whether it's male or female, we don't see the greatest things that each other does. Mm-hmm. So to say I can do anything that a woman can do, or I can do anything that a man can do, I don't know what you do. Right. I get little, tidbits here and there, but to say that is also to demean the role and everything that goes into that role. Mm-hmm. I may see a woman feeding the baby, for instance, and I say, well, I can do that. I can feed a baby. Yeah, but I don't smell like a woman. So a baby immediately is going to have an aversion to receiving food from me because I'm not giving off the same pheromones that the mother is getting off of. Plus, I can't produce milk. Mm-hmm. So there's also that issue. And on top of that, this stuff I'll be wanting to do. I don't want to feed a baby. I really don't. I want to do other stuff, right? So I got to stop everything to go feed. So there's so many things that go into who we are and what we do that are not always just based on what's apparent. Mm-hmm. A man may build bridges and things like that, but because he has a different kind of conception, maybe it's not about building the bridge. Maybe he just likes being outside in the elements and challenging himself in cold and hot weather. And someone said, well, hey, man, you always like why don't you get a job in construction? They pay good, and you could be outside all day, and we may like the ruggedness of that. Mm-hmm. So it's deeper. Even when you see a cop, you don't know everything that goes into being a cop. You just see the end result of them walking out with a badge and a stick, but when they were in the academy, and first time they had to put a gun in their hands and say, man, I can hurt somebody with this. Mm-hmm. And all those different things that go into it. Even being a man, and maybe you were a man who had a certain level of testosterone. Now somebody puts a gun in your hand, and you decide, now I have to really learn how to regulate my temper in a way that maybe a woman doesn't have to in the same sort of way. But that happens unseen. We don't get to see that development in that part. So to just jump up and be like, I could do that, you don't know who went into it. Right. I don't know what goes into being you or any other woman, and I'm positive if I knew, I wouldn't want anything to do with it. I can kind of just, I can sense it. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't want anything to do with it because I wasn't designed spiritually or emotionally or mentally for that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. True story.
And in some cases, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think some people do know what it is to go into with just from the sense of, I know certain people who says I would rather be a woman than be a man because it's harder to be a man than a woman in today's society.
Yeah, but they don't know. I mean, you say something like that, I'd rather be a woman than a man, I'd rather be a man than a woman. But I'm saying? Like, it's tough being a man in today's society, right? We know that. Because if you stand up, shoot, it's tough. In Zach, you and I can attest to this. It's tough being big and over 6 feet tall and bald-headed with beards. There's a challenge that comes with that, and you feel it. I know you feel it because I feel it. When you walk around certain people, everyone isn't like, hey, big guy. Everybody doesn't see me as a big teddy bear. You know,
right?
There's another energy, and you can feel that energy. But you know what? That ain't really tough. You know. Now somebody might look at that and be like, man, it's tough. Nah, you know what? I like being bigger than everybody else, actually. So it's an open field. I'd rather enjoy it. I'd rather enjoy being able to look down on most people I speak to.
You be jumping at them. Say something. Say something.
I ain't got no problem with it. You know what I mean? Like, but also, I can escape because we're talking about in society. I don't have to be in this society. You see, and I think maybe men may have a little slight advantage on that level because I think we can escape more easily than most females can. Some do. Don't get me wrong. You got some sisters who sell everything and they live out of their van and they just drive around and do remote work. Those are the good ones. You know, brother, you get you one of those, you got something valuable because she's unplugged from the matrix. Anytime you find a mate that's unplugged from the matrix, you got something valuable. You know, but for a guy, that's pretty easy. We'll go live in a tent in a heartbeat. As long as we got a phone that's charged up, we good. You know, and a can of beans. You know, so it's a little bit different. But I would say even with that, man, I don't think they know. They're judging based off of certain things they see, but there's so much more. Like I said to you, Zach, a woman will never understand the feeling of being a threat no matter where you go. They say it. I went in the store and the man was following me. He doesn't see you as a threat. It's just that sisters be stealing weed. So,
what?
Hey.
What?
Yeah, you know y'all be doing that to Mr. Chin. You know, going in there.
Oh, weave.
Yeah, running out the door, stealing that weed. You know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of videos on YouTube, y'all stealing weed.
You know, y'all. I ain't in that.
You know, because Charmaine, she over there, she said, I'll do your hair, but you gotta get the bundle. Right back, Charmaine. I'll be right back.
Yeah, true. Mr. Kim be like, you took from my thought.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. But you still not really a threat because we done seen the videos what Mr. Lee do when he get his hands on you too. He ain't scared of you. And then he be marching out front. They beat that woman. Yeah, she's stealing. That's what you're supposed to do. Beat the tongues out of her.
I guess would that be like eye for an eye? Like that's what happens when you steal. She might be lucky they ain't cut her hand off.
You know, it ain't eye for an eye. It's this. I'm not your people.
True.
True. I don't have no sense. Let me tell you something. If a little Negro boy come into my store and steal something, I'm gonna grab him up by his collar, scare him, probably make him sweep up or something like that, because that's still my people. So there's a subtle level of affection there. But if some alien child comes, man, I'm beating the brakes off that child. I might break a limb, make them feel like they're getting ready to die. I have no love for you. So when Mr. Chin and Mr. Lee, you running up in his store taking food out of his children's mouth, he doesn't have to show any affection towards you and go easy on you. I wouldn't go easy on you either. Especially knowing how violent you are. And half the time when they be stealing, they run out. It's not like they even slip with it. Like, let me put it in my purse and slip. They just grab it and jet. So you ready to knock over anybody that's in your way. So yeah, Mr. Lee, he always take that broom handle. He stick it in the door. He stick it in the door handle so you can't get out. You know, they be hopping, flying over the counter. They be like, come gloves, beating the crap out of it. Hey man, don't steal from Happy's hair.
Happy's hair.
Happy's hair.
It's beauty supply store. Beauty supply store. You do
Yeah,
it.
I mean, people will be triggered by that. But see, that's the thing. So I'm saying, they say they know, but they really don't know. Because we're not beholden to the society. We do whatever we feel like doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll face the consequences for whatever it is. That's what being an adult is.
Just say, yes, we can do whatever you feel like doing.
Not whatever you feel. I mean, unless your feelings are guided by divine intuition. See, that's the difference. You know, so my joy, my desire, my thought, my feelings are all coming from a celestial place.
Mm.
And when they don't come from a celestial place, you don't know about it. Because I get rid of it. So I cut that tree down, you know, before it even gets a chance to sprout any fruit. That's that internal work that you have to do every day. That's why when like your friends say, "Oh, well, don't lose yourself and make sure you," no, lose yourself every freaking day.
Mm-hmm.
Renew yourself every day. Go walk through your garden. Like when it talks about the Elohim walk in the garden, you got to walk through your garden and see what's sprouting up and what needs to be removed. That's why meditation is so important. Because every day different thoughts will come up. You know, what the heck did that come from? All right, well let's address that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let it live inside of me for a month or two until it eventually manifests in something. You see?
Mm-hmm.
And in that way you'll become fluid. So it may seem like when I'm talking and you're talking and Auntie Zach is talking, that we're just speaking flippantly. But a person may not realize when you have a flood of divine information and thought flowing through you, it's just going to flow through you. It's going to seem and feel very fluid. You don't have to do any thinking. Nothing I just said is untrue. Yeah, you can't go into an alien space, and you got to think about the other aspect of why you think police be shooting you down wholesale.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have no love for you. Why would they have love for you? You're a prisoner of war. You're here because you're a prisoner of war. You're supposed to be love and showing affection towards a prisoner.
Mm-hmm. Yep, behind enemy lines. I think, yeah. Yep. Well.
Let my people go.
Yeah, like so then when there are these
that was the cue to start bringing the segment down. But okay, we'll close it out with this one.
yes. When there are these movements to find out who you are, right? Like to go into that space where it's like humble yourself and find out who you really are and let go of all the things that you've been told is what you should do, what you should be, because that's actually unholy. Then it comes to a place where we have to listen, because there's not many hints that are going to be dropped anymore. It seems like, even I think it was the last Clubhouse or the one before that where you were like, not the open enrollment is about to be done. So like if you haven't decided to jump on where truth is and be righteous, then you're just gonna be out with the masses, and whatever happens, happens.
Well, that's what people want to be. Do we still need hints?
I don't know. Some people maybe. I don't know.
No, they don't. They don't. You don't need any more hints, because we're not in the era of hints anymore. You have to be in the era of hints where if you spoke up or said that you read a book, somebody would kill you.
Yeah.
We're not in that era anymore. So now people are saying Hebrews to Negroes. Hey, check it out. It's a good documentary.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm going to kill your income streams. I'm going to try to publicly lynch you, but you're still alive. You're still around.
Mm-hmm.
You made a lot of money. How much more you need? You know what I mean? Somebody give me a couple $1 million. What? You know, I'm going to be a slave for the next million for the rest of my life. What's the point of that? I have enough now to go buy me a little house in Atlanta somewhere,
and be okay.
In a truck and buy me a little car wash or a couple of stores, get me a 7-Eleven or something, and chill out to the sunset and keep being free.
Yeah.
Right? So we're at the era now. Is what I'm saying is that we're in the hit era anymore because there are people who are being very upfront and very direct, as direct as Elijah Muhammad was being in the 50s when he was saying, "This one is God and this one is the devil." It's just that simple. Do for self. You know what I mean? So anybody who's still playing dumb is doing that on purpose to play themselves out of position, and just let them play themselves out of position. But if you look at all the exposés that are happening now, they're happening in a very overt way.
Yeah.
You know, where some of the most popular people are some of the people who are putting certain things forth. And of course, there's still subculture of nonsense. But I mean, everybody from Jeff Bezos to Warren Buffett to freaking Grant Cardone is saying we are about to crash.
True.
There are people who are saying that we're about to go into a huge economic recession, and they're not really making any money on it. Like, why would Jeff Bezos has said 3 times in the past, I think for about a month, do not make any big purchases. Now, why would the person who sells all of the things,
all the stuff,
to the world,
he got everything.
Say, telling you, don't make any big purchases. We're getting ready to go into a crash, right? We see what happened in crypto. Crypto's in the dump.
Yeah.
Stocks in the dump. It's hard to get a job, though they keep telling us, oh, it's more unemployment. They're lying.
No.
It's hard to get a job. The dollar has just about crashed down to nothing. And countries that were beating the dollar out are now losing. You know what I mean? In 2020, during the pandemic, Ghana came in second place as having the most stable currency in the world, the CD. At that point, it was 5 CDs to $1 US. Today, it's 12 CDs to $1 US. They crashed. You see, we saw what happened in Argentina. You know, so these things can really happen. Where they showed you the images and news reports where it was just Argentinian money in the gutters. People just burning the money, right? So it's not about hints anymore. It's blatant. Gold, silver, food, land, ammunition. Simple. It's right there. That's not even a hint. You know, and there's no way you can deny what I just said. And I said that years ago.
Yeah.
Right before the pandemic, we're getting ready to go into a crash in the beginning of the year. Stock up on your hard commodities. Don't you know I had people in my inbox messaging me saying, Chief, what's a hard commodity? I was ignoring it. You mean you too lazy to look
Google it? Google it.
Nowadays, you don't even have to type it in. You just say, you speak to the assistant on your
I was just going to say, click the button. What's a hard commodity? Google.
You can't even do that. You can't even ask Alexa or whomever else, what's a hard commodity? You see what I'm saying? So you want to die. This is what I'm saying. So it's not about hints anymore. What's happening is blatant and it's right in front of us. And there will be people who will scramble at the last minute because of their lack of integrity, who will come up, kind of what you described. I think it was your Minolet, but who will want to get closer to people with the resources, whether it be the husband.
Yeah.
Always hated your husband, but you know what? That man can grow some food now. That man got an arsenal. I know we're going to be safe over there. Look at all the crime that's been happening. Crime rates have been rising. It's about to look like Mad Max Fury Road out here. Just trying to get back and forth to the gas station. It's going to be like Fury Road. Going to be people hanging off the side of your car and everything. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to drive swinging a mix in your hand while you're driving. You see what I'm saying? When you get to the intersection, keeping people from coming trying to clean your windshield.
Back everybody
this
up.
is what I'm saying. Ain't no more hints. The era of hints is done and gone. It's been going for a minute now. This is what it is. You have to be inside of a family. Your family has to be inside of a community. You have to have some land that you own that people can't kick you off of, that the bank can't come and take. You have to be in a space where there's a level of morality and integrity. Even if those people don't look like you. I'd rather live amongst a bunch of Mormons, than live in the hood with a bunch of people who look and act like me, who have no integrity. And I'm not saying that people in the hood don't have integrity. The example I'm setting is more people in urban environments look physically like me than some European Mormon out in Utah somewhere. Yeah. But I'd rather go live with people who share some of the same moralistic values that I do. Mm-hmm. Because when the hit comes and karma comes and the effect comes, I want to be far away from it. I don't want to be in the middle of Sodom and Gomorrah and hellstorm come. Turning into pillars of salt because we was around. Like it's like the like Atlanta. Huh? I was just filling it in for you. Oh, I was thinking. Okay, yeah, like Atlanta. I was thinking like you died because you was around these people that was doing everything else. So you died too because you was in the area. You were here. No more hints. We're there now. Mm-hmm. You have to come up from among her. I mean, it's so bad now that you don't know when you're gonna get it because it's so random. It is. It's not like we just looking at Chicago at this point or Miami like it's bad. Every day got a new thing popping up. Shooting over there, kidnapping over there. Mm-hmm. This so all over the place. Then now it seems no one can live past 60 years old. We got that happening too at the same time. Everybody keep dying though. Right. It's every time it's like somebody shot this and there was a shootout. Everybody stay in your houses. Persons walk around the neighborhood shooting random people. What is happening? Now, why would that not get worse as people are losing access to medication and therapy and counseling sessions and employment and food? It works. It does get worse. We've been having more and more reports of people even siphoning gas out of other people's gas tanks because of the gas prices. Mm-hmm. So if I would siphon gas, what else would I do? You see, so no, there's no more hints. Hints are done. If you still need a hint, you want to die. So just go off into the sweetener. Okay. Well, give thanks, Chief. Give thanks, Aki Zach, Aki Darian, Achoti Maria, Maximilian, everyone on YouTube. Y'all was quiet on YouTube today. But like I was saying, like Aki Zach said yesterday, these are not easy. So don't just sit back and listen. And if you found it, I thought I blocked it. It's still there. Oh, goodness. So they weren't quiet. They were trying to. I guess they were raising their hand and say something. They didn't want to say nothing. They doing something unholy. They was being unholy. That's what they was being. So they had to get blocked. They got deleted. So give thanks. These things are hard. They're not easy. So, make sure you engage with the chat. If you're watching this later or you're listening to the replay, the door is only going to be open. She said, for a little while longer. We don't even know when that is. I guess Chief is whenever you say close the door. But for those of you who are in the room, if it's on Clubhouse, or you in the space on YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're watching, ain't no more hints. So don't just sit there and listen and be like, yeah, I'm gonna go back over here because ain't gonna be nothing to go back to pretty soon. So if you want righteous culture, deal with men and women and not males and females, this is where we are. A little bit of housekeeping as we go out. We do have our retreat coming up. It is open to prospective members who are interested in joining Anu. So if you are and would like to attend the retreat in December from the 15th to the 19th, you can call the number on the website, or you can also go to anulifeglobal.org/join. You can also put a note in any of the chats. They do get checked. So if you're on YouTube or Facebook, drop a note. We see it and we will reach back out to you. We'll connect with you.
Give thanks everyone for joining on stage and also showing up in the space. And we will see you next strong. Willfully, this was a great bill. It was a great bill, and willfully you think so as well. And that you're able to start your week and you can use the information here to be productive and think about, hey, I'm gonna come on over. So peace, everyone. Give thanks. Tov Yom Rishon.
Give thanks. Give thanks, everyone. Peace.
Thanks. Peace.